Chapter 1400. With his arm crippled, the bronze square tripod fell to the ground. Suzimo no longer had the energy to pick up the bronze square tripod. That was because this was not the only terrifying attack of the Golden Crow half-martial ancestor. The two spears collided with the bronze square tripod and shattered. However, the scorching golden flames exploded and devoured Suzimo instantly. The sun essence fire condensed by a half-martial ancestor was much stronger than the Golden Crow third prince's. His fur and flesh were charred, and he was completely enveloped by the sun essence fire, turning into a gigantic human-shaped fireball! Exclamation point. At the same time, another ball of blood exploded on the battlefield. Ah! The mighty figure of the heavenly phoenix shrieked. It turned out that when Suzimo defended against the two Golden Crow half-martial ancestors, his slash was targeted at the mighty figure of the heavenly phoenix. A bloody arm flew into the air. Suzimo was in intense pain from the sun essence fire. However, he did not make a sound. Gritting his teeth, he threw down the dragon soul saber casually and grabbed the severed arm of the mighty figure of the heavenly phoenix. To be fair, the pain of being burned by the sun essence fire was not even a tenth of the pain in the three tribulations domain of the Tao inheritance ground. The pain of the bone-chilling wind and the burning of the karmic fire was not something that anyone could endure. He's not dead yet. The expressions of the two Golden Crow half-martial ancestors turned cold as they transformed into two streaks of golden light and charged towards Suzimo. There was no way they would let Suzimo live. Within the golden flames, a mocking look flashed through Suzimo's eyes. The moment the two Golden Crow half-martial ancestors moved, he moved as well. He did not advance. Instead, he leaped down towards the volcano not far behind him. Young master. Seeing this, Emoing cried out in alarm. Bang! She was distracted and was struck by a dermic art of a mighty figure of Punglai Island. She fell to the ground and spat out blood with a dim expression. Emoing did not seem to feel the pain on her body and merely looked in the direction of the volcano in a daze. Suzimo's figure had already disappeared in the billowing heat. One had to know that the temperature emitted by the sacred fire mountain was so high that even they couldn't withstand it, let alone the magma in the volcano. Even the two half-martial ancestors of the Golden Crow clan would most likely perish if they fell in. When the rest of the crowd saw this scene, they were also stunned. I didn't expect Araki Takeshi to be so stubborn. He would rather kill himself than be killed by us, said Xian Shuang. He really got off easy. The Golden Crow third prince said hatefully. The Golden Crow third prince could not vent the anger in his heart after failing to skin Suzimo alive and grind his bones into dust. No, it's definitely not that simple. At this moment, the voice of the heavenly phoenix almighty being rang out. He was panting slightly, and blood was still flowing from his severed arm. He could not regrow his arm. The dragon aura on the dragon's soul saber still affected his wound quite a bit. The heavenly phoenix almighty's aura was weak, but he still urged, "Go to the volcano and take a look. Araki Takeshi might still have some tricks up his sleeve." That's right. The Golden Crow third prince also reacted and said, "This Araki Takeshi is extremely tough. In the previous battle at Heaven and Earth Valley, he was exiled into the void by a human half-martial ancestor, but did not die." Humph! A half-martial ancestor of the Golden Crow clan snorted coldly. "What temperature is the magma of the sacred fire mountain? Even if we fall in, we will definitely die, let alone Dharma Daojun." Despite saying that, everyone still endured the heat emitted by the sacred fire mountain and walked toward the volcano. When they arrived at the volcano, the sweat that the Golden Crow third prince, Xian Shuang, and the others had just started to evaporate, and their skin became dry and cracked. A layer of sweat appeared on the cheeks of the two half-martial ancestors of the Golden Crow clan. Everyone focused their gazes and looked into the depths of the volcano. Scarlet magma surged in the depths of the volcano. Suzimo's eyes were tightly shut, and more than half of his body was drowned by the magma. His flesh and blood had already been burned into nothingness. Only his skeleton was left. However, it began to melt under the terrifying magma. Before long, the magma surged and engulfed Suzimo completely. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that. With that, there would be no accidents. Everyone retreated one after another. They had to endure immense torment if they stayed at the edge of the volcano for even a single moment. How is it? Is Araki Takashi still alive? The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure's arm was severed and she did not advance. When she saw that everyone had retreated so quickly, she asked hurriedly, "He's already dead." Xianshuang nodded and said with certainty, "From today onwards, there will be no more Araki Takashi in the cultivation world. He died so easily." The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure was still in disbelief. Turning to the two half-martial ancestors of the Golden Crow race, she could not help but say, "Seniors, you should have been a step faster to stop Araki Takashi from jumping into the volcano. Why? Are you blaming us?" One of the half-martial ancestors of the Golden Crow race had a cold expression and said coldly, "And no, that's not what I meant." The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure was shocked and explained hurriedly, "Araki Takashi has too many secrets and treasures on him after all. It's a pity for him to be buried in the volcano just like that." "Umph." A half-martial ancestor of the Golden Crow race harumphed coldly, "There's nothing to pity. Araki Takashi's bronze tripod and dragon soul saber were left on the mountain. But the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure hesitated. "But what?" The other half-martial ancestor of the Golden Crow race sneered and asked, "My arm, Fufu." Before the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure could finish, he was interrupted by a cold laugh. The half-martial ancestor of the Golden Crow race pursed his lips. "It's just an arm. After you recuperate for a few days, and the dragon chi around your wound dissipates, it'll naturally grow back." But the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure wanted to explain. The half-martial ancestor of the Golden Crow race frowned slightly and waved his hand with an impatient expression. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure sighed softly. For some reason he felt uneasy. Indeed, a severed arm was not considered a serious injury. However, the key point was that he was holding a piece of divine phoenix bone in his palm. The situation back then changed rapidly, and Araki Takashi did not even use his full strength to defend against the attacks of the two half-martial ancestors to sever his arm. Later on, Araki Takashi had an arm crippled under the attacks of the two half-martial ancestors as well. In fact, Araki Takashi chose to abandon the bronze square tripod and dragon soul saber, just so that he could free up his hand to obtain the divine phoenix bone. Could Araki Takashi have expended so much effort, and did not hesitate to be severely injured and abandon so many treasures, just to obtain the divine phoenix bone? Thereafter, he took it and committed suicide in the volcano? That did not make sense. Of course, since Xianshuang and the others witnessed Araki Takashi's death with their own eyes, there should not be any surprises. Although they managed to kill Araki Takashi in this battle, they suffered heavy losses as well. As for the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure, he did not gain anything at all. Initially, he wanted to obtain Araki Takashi's divine phoenix bone. Even if he could not refine the phoenix bloodline, his combat strength would increase tremendously. To think that he would lose his divine phoenix bone as well. Chapter 1401. Second brother, fourth brother. Why are the two of you here? The Golden Crow third prince frowned slightly in displeasure. I've already set up the 8 gates dragon lock formation in advance. Araki Takashi's bloodline is sealed, and there's no way he can escape. There were many Golden Crow clansmen, but the younger generation of each generation was led by the 10 Golden Crows. The 2 half-martial ancestors were also 2 of the 10 Golden Crows. One of them was the second prince, and the other was the 4th prince. Among the 10 Golden Crows, their cultivation realms were different. However, even the weakest was a conjoint body mighty figure. Third brother, if we hadn't come, you would have been killed by Araki Takashi. The Golden Crow 4th prince laughed. Humph! The Golden Crow 3rd prince clenched his fists. Don't think that I don't know what you guys are up to. You're just here to fight for Araki Takashi's treasures. The 10 Golden Crows were filled with intense competition, and not all of them were as close as siblings. It was common for them to scheme against each other. The Golden Crow 2nd prince did not say anything the entire time. Instead, he walked to the bronze square tripod and lifted it up. So heavy. The Golden Crow 2nd prince's heart skipped a beat. Araki Takashi was dead, but he left behind two treasures. One was this bronze square tripod, and the other was Divine Phoenix Island's Dragon Soul Saber. The Dragon Soul Saber was famous. There was even a saber emperor who said that anyone who could wield the Dragon Soul Saber would be the young master of Divine Phoenix Island. However, in the eyes of the Golden Crow Second Prince, this bronze square tripod was even more precious and mysterious than the Dragon Soul Saber. The bronze square tripod looked completely crippled and was filled with cracks. However, it was precisely this bronze square cauldron that had resisted the attacks of two half-martial ancestors. The Golden Crow Second Prince closed his eyes and gathered his spirit consciousness, wanting to erase the spirit consciousness mark left behind by Araki Takashi on the bronze square tripod. The bronze square tripod could only become his treasure if he erased the spirit consciousness mark left behind by Araki Takashi. On the other side, the Golden Crow Fourth Prince walked forward and lifted the Dragon Soul Saber. He grinned at the Golden Crow Third Prince. "Third brother, this Dragon Soul Saber is mine." "Humph." The Golden Crow Third Prince snorted coldly with an ugly expression. Ever since the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley, he had lost his third leg and fled back to Punglai Island with serious injuries. His status in the Golden Crow tribe had plummeted. The Golden Crow that had lost its third leg had lost its most powerful trump card. The Golden Crow Third Prince originally wanted to suppress Araki Takashi this time and obtain the treasures and cultivation techniques on Araki Takashi before making a breakthrough. He didn't expect that he wouldn't be able to reap any benefits this time. He was intercepted by two of the 10 Golden Crows. The Golden Crow Fourth Prince walked forward with a smile. The moment his palm touched the Dragon Soul Saber, something happened. Clang, clang, clang. The blade suddenly trembled violently and burst out with violent and sharp saber chi. The chi of the ancestral dragon filled the air and emitted a powerful pressure. Caught off guard, the Golden Crow Fourth Prince's palm was cut by the saber chi of the Dragon Soul Saber, causing it to bleed. An ownerless weapon dares to be so arrogant. The Golden Crow Fourth Prince retracted his smile, and his expression turned cold. The wounds on his palm did not affect a half-martial ancestor at all. In the blink of an eye, the wounds healed. The Golden Crow Fourth Prince channeled his bloodline dermic powers and condensed Golden Sun Essence fire in his palm, burning the Dragon Soul Saber continuously. The saber chi of the Dragon Soul Saber was instantly burned into nothingness. Even the chi of the ancestral dragon could not withstand it. Roar! However, the Dragon Soul Saber was still extremely irritable. When it sensed the unfamiliar bloodline, its ancestral dragon aura erupted wildly. It actually condensed into an ancestral dragon phantom in midair, and let out a loud and clear dragon roar at the Golden Crow Fourth Prince. "Beast!" the Golden Crow Fourth Prince said hatefully. "How dare you be so noisy in front of me?" The Golden Crow Fourth Prince opened his mouth and spat out a scarlet gold flame that devoured the ancestral dragon instantly and burned wildly. The ancestral dragon phantom let out a series of tragic cries. The power of the Dragon Soul Saber could not stop the half-martial ancestor of the Golden Crow race in the end. Hee. When he saw that, the Golden Crow Third Prince could not help but laugh. The Golden Crow Second and Fourth Princes encountered considerable obstacles when they wanted to obtain Araki Takashi's two treasures. The Golden Crow Third Prince gloated when he saw the two of them suffer. "What should we do with that woman?" Xian Shuang's gaze landed on Mo Ying in the flower-admiring pavilion. "Kill." The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure was expressionless and merely said a single word. Xian Shuang shook his head gently. "It's a pity to kill such a beautiful person and a conjoint body mighty figure. That woman has to die." The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure's tone was firm. If Mo Ying returned to Divine Phoenix Island alive, he would be implicated as a Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure. In his heart, there was no such thing as pity for the fairer sex. Mo Ying's expression did not change when she heard the discussion between the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure and Xian Shuang. There was no fear in her eyes either. She was the chosen saber attendant of Divine Phoenix Island. Now that the young master was dead, there was no need for her to continue living. Strange. Right then, the Golden Crow Second Prince opened his eyes and frowned. Araki Takashi is only the Dharma Daojun. Why is the spirit consciousness imprint left on the bronze square tripod so sturdy? Under normal circumstances, as a half-martial ancestor, he could erase the Dharma Daojun's spirit consciousness with a single thought. However, after an incense stick's time, the spirit consciousness on the bronze square tripod showed no signs of being erased. Hee. The Golden Crow Third Prince laughed. You guys don't know yet, right? Even though the Araki Takashi just now is already buried in the sacred fire mountain, Araki Takashi is still alive. What do you mean? The Golden Crow Second Prince asked with a frown. Araki Takashi had two true bodies. Just now, the one that died was only one of his true bodies of dragons. The Golden Crow Third Prince said. In other words, Araki Takashi is not dead yet. How can it be so easy to erase his spirit consciousness? Normally speaking, if a cultivator died and only left a spirit consciousness imprint, it would naturally be much easier to erase it. However, if the cultivator was not dead, it would be much more difficult to erase the spirit consciousness imprint. That's not right either. The Golden Crow Second Prince shook his head. This bronze square tripod is clearly the Dharma weapon of Araki Takashi's true body of dragons. What does it have to do with that true body? Unless Araki Takashi's true body of dragons is not dead. A thought flashed through the Golden Crow Second Prince's mind. Immediately after, he dismissed that thought. They had witnessed Araki Takashi falling into the sacred fire mountain and being engulfed by the terrifying lava. How could he still be alive? The Golden Crow Second Prince laughed self-deprecatingly and lamented to himself. I was overthinking. At that thought, the Golden Crow Second Prince closed his eyes and continued to channel his spirit consciousness to refine the bronze square tripod. Actually, the Golden Crow Second Prince's guess was right. Suzimo was indeed not dead. Not only was he not dead, he was even experiencing the greatest transformation of his body and bloodline ever since he started cultivating in the sacred fire mountain. Chapter 1402. Actually, the moment he sensed the appearance of the two half-martial ancestors, Suzimo had already made a decision. That was to leap into the sacred fire mountain. Given his current cultivation realm, even if his bloodline was not sealed, he would not be able to defeat the two half-martial ancestors of the Golden Crow race. In other words, he had no chance of winning against the two half-martial ancestors of the Golden Crow race. However, if he leaped into the sacred fire mountain, he would be able to fight for a chance of survival. Given the incinerating power of the sacred fire mountain, it could definitely incinerate the power of the Eight Gates Dragon Lock formation into nothingness and release his bloodline. Of course, given the terror of the sacred fire mountain, his body, bloodline and bones would probably be melted. However, this sort of melting might be an opportunity for the true bodies of the dragons. Back in the Dragon Bone Valley, the Dragon Elder had told him about the Dragon Phoenix. The reason why the true bodies of the dragons could not conjure a complete dragon body was because of the existence of the Divine Phoenix bone, and their bloodlines could not coexist. However, with the flames of the sacred fire mountain, there was a chance of refining the Divine Phoenix bone and fusing it with the true bodies of the dragons. Of course, this choice was way too risky. If he succeeded, he would naturally be reborn. However, if he failed, the true bodies of the dragons would be buried in the sacred fire mountain with their bodies and spirits destroyed without a corpse. Given the current situation, Suzimo had no choice but to give it his all. In order to increase the success rate of the fusion, Suzimo even threw the bronze square tripod and dragon soul saber on the peak of the mountain and snatched the Divine Phoenix bone of the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure. With two Divine Phoenix bones in hand, Suzimo leaped into the sacred fire mountain. As he had expected, the lava of the sacred fire mountain was extremely terrifying. Even the bloodline of the true bodies of the dragons could not withstand it and melted before long. Not only that, the two Divine Phoenix bones in his body also began to melt in the lava of the sacred fire mountain. According to normal cultivation, it was extremely difficult for the Divine Phoenix bone to fuse with the bloodline and body of the true bodies of the dragons. But now, the true bodies of dragons and Divine Phoenix bones had turned into streams of boiling lava, and the two bloodlines fused rapidly, becoming indistinguishable from each other. The Golden Crow third prince and the others saw Su Zimo being swallowed by the holy volcano's magma with their own eyes. However, they could not see the strange scene happening below the magma. 3 balls of light revolved slowly, radiating with great power. They formed a barrier of light, isolating the heat from the magma and protecting the red-haired soul in the middle. He had to protect the red-haired essence spirit. If the red-haired Yuan spirit was burned to ashes, it would be useless no matter how much his body and bloodline had changed. However, the lava of the sacred fire mountain was too terrifying. The power emitted by the 3 balls of light was barely enough to hold on. At that moment, the true bodies of the dragons had already disappeared around the scarlet-haired essence spirit, and the 2 divine phoenix bones had already melted. The fusion of the two, under the refinement of the sacred fire volcano's magma, was giving birth to a brand new bloodline, an even more terrifying power. The scarlet-haired essence spirit sensed something, and the power of his essence spirit surged, breaking through the barrier of the Dharma characteristic realm and entering the conjoint body realm. The fusion of the true bodies of the dragons was not the fusion of heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. Instead, it was the fusion of the dragon and divine phoenix. A brand new body appeared in the boiling lava. Initially, it was only an outline, but as time passed by, it gradually became clearer. If anyone could see below the lava, they would be shocked to discover that the body was not that of a human. It still doesn't work. The Golden Crow second prince opened his eyes once more and spat out a mouthful of bad luck. There was already some impatience in his expression. Why don't I give it a try? The Golden Crow third prince gloated at the side. Humph. The Golden Crow second prince said coldly. I really don't believe it. If I can't refine it in a day, I'll refine it for a year. If I can't do it in a year, I'll refine it for 10 years. On the other side, the Golden Crow fourth prince finally suppressed the dragon soul saber. Later on, he was even forced to use the power of divine powers. It's about time. Suddenly, the heavenly phoenix mighty figure said. Mo-ing, it's time for you to be on your way and accompany that young master of yours. Fufu. Mo-ing laughed. Heavenly Phoenix, you won't have a good ending for plotting against the young master. You'll definitely suffer retribution. Retribution? The heavenly phoenix mighty figure could not help but laugh. Ha 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 ha. Araki Takashi is already dead. When I return to Divine Phoenix Island, I'll be the young master of Divine Phoenix Island. What retribution? I'm not afraid of it at all. Is that so? Right then, a strange voice sounded from the peak of the mountain, as though it came from below the sacred fire mountain. Everyone was stunned and looked over instinctively. The bottom of the sacred fire mountain was filled with boiling lava. How could there be anyone? Clang, clang, clang. Right then, the sound of metal clashing could be heard from below the sacred fire mountain, as though some sharp weapon was piercing the stone wall. The heavenly phoenix mighty figure's face was pale, and his throat moved as he swallowed his saliva unconsciously. Impossible, impossible. The heavenly phoenix mighty figure shook his head repeatedly with a bewildered expression. However, Mo Ying's eyes were filled with surprise and joy. She could tell that the voice was the young master's. There was no mistake about it. The young master was not dead. Impossible. The Golden Crow second prince harumphed coldly and headed towards the entrance of the sacred fire mountain in a flash. The Golden Crow third prince, fourth prince, Xian Shuang and heavenly phoenix mighty figures moved as well. They endured the scorching heat and looked down at the bottom of the sacred fire mountain. Thereafter, they saw a scene that they would never forget for the rest of their lives. In the churning lava, a gigantic living being crawled out slowly. It looked like a dragon and a phoenix with a dragon head and a phoenix tail. It had 5 claws beneath its body. Every single claw was incomparably sharp and shone with a cold glint. At that moment, the living being was climbing on the stone wall of the sacred fire mountain. The claws beneath its abdomen dug into the walls of the sacred fire mountain and pierced holes. There was even a pair of gigantic wings on the back of the living being. They were scarlet like smoke, and the boiling lava dripped from the living being's body without injuring it at all. What was even more terrifying was that the aura emitted by the living being made the three princes of the Golden Crow race shudder. It was a suppression of bloodline. Even the Golden Crow race had to lower their heads in front of this living being. What is that? Everyone was stunned on the spot with shocked expressions. It's. The heavenly phoenix mighty figure extended his lone arm and seemed to have thought of something. His eyes were filled with fear and his lips trembled. He could not even speak. All of a sudden. Could it be? The Golden Crow second prince's heart skipped a beat as he thought of a possibility. Immediately after, the Golden Crow third prince and fourth prince's faces drained of blood, and their bodies trembled slightly. Dragon. Phoenix. The Golden Crow fourth prince tried saying. As soon as those two words left his mouth, the weather suddenly changed, and the entire world shuddered as if it had sensed fear. One of the three primordial taboos, the birth of the dragon phoenix. Chapter 1403. The taboo race was the strongest living being of the primordial era. Even though the Golden Crow race was ranked among the primordial 9 races, they still had an innate fear of the taboo race deep in their memories and bloodline. Su Zimo glared at the Golden Crow third prince and the others with a cold gaze. The true bodies of dragons were already a thing of the past. His current physical body was the true body of the dragon and phoenix. Su Zimo had just transformed into a dragon phoenix and was not used to this body yet. Therefore, as he crawled out of the sacred fire mountain, he sensed the difference in his dragon phoenix body. Su Zimo had to admit that at that moment, his entire body was filled with immense power. Even every inch of his muscles and fingernails seemed to be able to release terrifying lethality. Everyone watch out! The Golden Crow second prince was the first to react. He hollered and swiped his storage bag, taking out a golden badge and tossing it over. The golden badge transformed into a golden beam of light and arrived in the firmaments. It exploded and transformed into the form of a three-legged golden crow. That was the Golden Crow badge of the Golden Crow race. It would not be released unless it was absolutely necessary. Furthermore, the Golden Crow badge belonged to the second prince. From that, it was clear how serious this matter was. Don't panic, the Golden Crow second prince said in a deep voice. Even if Araki Takashi transformed into a dragon phoenix, he has only just entered the conjoint body realm. How strong can he be? We just need to delay him for a moment. When the experts of our Golden Crow race arrive, Araki Takashi will definitely die. That's right. The Golden Crow fourth prince nodded as well. A taboo is not invincible. Everyone join forces and kill this taboo while its cultivation realm is unstable. We'll drink its blood and eat its meat. A taboo is filled with treasures. That sentence caused the eyes of Xian Shuang and the two conjoint body mighty figures of Penglai Island to light up. There was nothing that could move their hearts more than this sentence. With their half-martial ancestor cultivation, the Golden Crow second and fourth princes were fearless and wiped away the fear in the hearts of Xian Shuang and the others with a few words. This was Penglai Island after all, Xian Shuang's territory. It was just a taboo. How could it overturn the heavens? Everyone's gazes turned fervent. It was even more so for the heavenly phoenix mighty figures. It should have been mine. The fact that Araki Takashi could transform into a dragon phoenix means that my path of cultivation is correct. I can also transform into a phoenix. This thought flashed through the heavenly phoenix almighty's mind repeatedly. However, he did not know that Su Zimo had not only relied on 2 divine phoenix bones to transform into a dragon phoenix. The mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness that he possessed, the mystical abilities that he comprehended, the power of the sacred fire mountain, and even Daiyu's heaven-defying fate change. Under all sorts of coincidences, Su Zimo became a dragon phoenix and descended into the world. Even if a heavenly phoenix mighty figure obtained 2 divine phoenix bones and jumped into the holy volcano, it would be difficult for him to transform into a phoenix. The most likely possibility was that he would be burned to ashes. Only the Golden Crow third prince was relatively calm. He had witnessed the battle of Heaven and Earth Valley with his own eyes. He had witnessed how the true bodies of the dragons slaughtered their enemies, and how terrifying their combat strength was. But now, the true form of the dragons had transformed into the body of a dragon phoenix. Perhaps even a half-martial ancestor would not be able to suppress it. Everyone, don't hold back. Kill. The Golden Crow second prince hollered, and reverted to his true form right away. He reared his head and roared into the skies, reaching out with his third leg that burned with raging flames and grabbing towards Suzimo. The Golden Crow fourth prince released the strongest attack of the Golden Crow race as well. The third legs of the two Golden Crow princes were not only filled with bloodline and dermic powers, there was also a trace of divine power. At the same time, Xian Shuang and the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure attacked. The two conjoint body mighty figures of Penglai Island had already attacked as well. The Golden Crow third prince hesitated for a moment before releasing a secret skill of the Golden Crow race and descending. Instantly, everyone's attacks poured down like a torrential storm. Suzimo had just crawled out of the sacred fire mountain and looked at the dermic weapons and secret skills in midair with a calm expression. He extended his dragon phoenix claws slowly. Swoosh! A thought flashed through his mind. Suddenly, a terrifying scarlet flame rose from the dragon phoenix claws. Suzimo extended his dragon phoenix claws as well and grabbed towards the third legs of the two Golden Crow third princes. The remaining three legs released a heaven-rending power as well and grabbed towards the dermic weapons and secret skills of the mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix and the others. Bang! Bang! The two Golden Crow half-martial ancestors clashed head-on with Suzimo. There was no room for tricks in the head-on clash between the Golden Crow legs and the Dragon Phoenix claws. This was a pure contest of strength. It was a contest of whose claws were sharper and whose flames were stronger. After a momentary stalemate, the two Golden Crow half-martial ancestors cried out tragically. Exclamation point. The Dragon Phoenix claws exerted strength and snapped the third legs of the two Golden Crow half-martial ancestors, causing their tendons and bones to splatter. The third legs of the two Golden Crows were completely crippled. Bang! 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 At the same time, the remaining attacks could not injure Suzimo at all, and were blocked by his other Dragon Phoenix claws. A pair of dermic weapons were gripped in the palms of the Dragon Phoenix claws. The pair of dermic weapons were the destiny dermic weapons of the two mighty figures of Penglai Island. Suzimo reared his head and roared into the skies. Dermic powers surged from his palms and conjured a raging fire. Under the burning of the flames, the pair of dermic weapons began to transform and melt. Right in front of everyone, the pair of dermic weapons were crushed into scarlet scrap metal by Suzimo. The power of a taboo was impossible to defend against. The essence spirits of the two conjoint body mighty figures of Penglai Island were implicated by the destruction of their destiny dermic weapons, and could not help but grunt with pale faces. The Dragon Soul Saber slashed down. Suzimo did not dodge or dodge. His blood chi surged, and he merely released the might of the Dragon Phoenix. Instantly, the Dragon Soul Saber bowed and returned to his control. Suzimo did not touch the Dragon Soul Saber, and merely moved his spirit consciousness. The Dragon Soul Saber transformed into a streak of light, and arrived above the heads of the two mighty figures of Penglai Island instantly. It slashed down and released the might of sea calming. The two conjoint body mighty figures felt that their bodies were no longer under their control, and they could not move at all. The speed at which the Dragon Soul Saber slashed down was not fast. However, the two of them could only watch helplessly as the Dragon Soul Saber slashed down slowly and split their heads into two. Their essence spirits could not escape. Two conjoint body mighty figures died on the spot. Retreat! The Golden Crow second prince endured the pain and hollered. The golden wings behind him flapped, and he transformed into a golden beam of light that fled towards the habitat of the Golden Crow race. There was no need for his reminder. The Golden Crow third and fourth princes had already moved. Mighty figure Mystic Frost fled towards the inner island. The mighty figure of the Heavenly Phoenix fled outside the island. The Golden Crow race was ranked at the top of the primordial 9 races in terms of speed, and was not inferior to the Rakshasa race. The Golden Crow second prince believed that their combat strength was not a match for Suzimo. However, given their cultivation as half-martial ancestors, Suzimo would definitely not be able to catch up to them if they fled with all their might. Under normal circumstances he was not wrong. Even if the true bodies of dragons were at the conjoint body realm, they might not be able to catch up to their speed. However, at that moment, Su Zimo was a taboo dragon phoenix. The dragon phoenix had a pair of gigantic wings as well. Chapter 1404. Su Zimo had just transformed into a dragon phoenix, and was not completely familiar with the power of his body. Although he had a pair of gigantic wings behind him, he had not used them just now when he was fighting against everyone. At that moment, Su Zimo was anxious when he saw the three princes of the Golden Crow race fleeing far away, and the mighty figure of the heavenly phoenix, Xian Shuang, and the others fleeing in all directions. He channeled his bloodline, and the wings on his back spread open. Swoosh! This pair of wings was burning with raging flames. Every single feather was scarlet and crystalline, shimmering with the divine light without any impurities. Su Zimo attempted to activate the pair of wings. The massive wings flapped and a powerful force burst forth. Su Zimo's figure transformed into a scarlet beam of light, and chased after the three princes of the Golden Crow race. He had to kill the three princes of the Golden Crow race as soon as possible. Just now, Su Zimo noticed the Golden Crow badge, released by the second prince of the Golden Crow race as well. He believed that it wouldn't be long before the Golden Crow army, and even experts of the Golden Crow race arrived. It would be fine if they were only half-martial ancestors. However, if the patriarch of the Golden Crow race was alarmed, Su Zimo would most likely be doomed even if he had transformed into a dragon phoenix. The patriarch had already entered the Mahayana realm and comprehended true divine powers. That power had completely surpassed the conjoint body realm. One could sense the massive difference just by looking at the increase in lifespan. Conjoint body mighty figures of the human race had a lifespan of 20,000 years. However, after entering the Mahayana realm, their lifespan increased exponentially to 100,000 years. The three princes of the Golden Crow race ran. However, within a few breaths, the three princes felt a scorching heat wave approaching them rapidly from behind, with an extremely terrifying killing intent. The second prince of the Golden Crow turned back. That single glance almost scared him out of his wits. Not far behind the three of them, the terrifying figure of the dragon phoenix was closing in rapidly. Flapping his wings, he was clearly much faster than them. The Golden Crow race had the best movement techniques among the primordial 9 races. However, compared to the dragon phoenix in the taboo, there was a huge difference. Among the three princes, the Golden Crow third prince had the lowest cultivation level and the slowest movement speed. Su Zimo was the first to catch up to the Golden Crow third prince. He didn't stop or slow down at all. He only stretched out his dragon and phoenix claws and grabbed the Golden Crow third prince's head. The 5 dragon and phoenix claws had sealed off all of the Golden Crow third prince's escape routes. Pucci! The Golden Crow third prince could not dodge, and his head was crushed by the dragon phoenix's claw. His essence spirit was destroyed and he died on the spot. 3 breaths later, Su Zimo caught up to the Golden Crow's second and fourth princes again. He flapped his wings and shot out 2 blazing flame barriers, blocking the 2 princes' path. Araki Takashi, this is Punglai Island. Seeing that he could not escape, the Golden Crow second prince could not help but turn around and shout, "I've already sent out my Golden Crow token. In a moment, my Golden Crow patriarch will descend. If you dare to hurt me, you won't be able to leave Punglai Island either, Araki Takashi." The Golden Crow fourth prince also shouted fiercely, "Araki Takashi, leave now and you might still have a chance to escape. If you continue to stay here, you'll die." The 2 princes were extremely smart. If the 2 of them could scare Su Zimo away with their words, that would be for the best. Even if they failed, they would definitely be able to intimidate Su Zimo and delay him for a long time. However, it was a pity that they were facing the decisive Su Zimo. "How dare you threaten me? I'll kill you guys." Su Zimo's voice was cold, and he did not have any qualms at all. He had long been at odds with the Golden Crow race. Putting aside the fact that many Golden Crows died in his hands in the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley, the Golden Crow race would not let him live just because he was a taboo dragon phoenix. Su Zimo swooped down and 2 bedazzling flames burst forth from his eyes. After entering the conjoint body realm, and transforming into a dragon phoenix. The power of the illumination, I became even more terrifying. The two half-martial ancestors dodged with all their might, but their bodies were still scraped by the illumination eye. The wound instantly turned into a pile of ashes. Su Zimo swooped down and extended his sharp dragon phoenix claws towards the golden crow second prince. At the same time, he opened his mouth and bit towards the golden crow fourth prince on the other side. His claws and fangs arrived. The two princes fought Su Zimo in melee combat. Exclamation point! Exclamation point! In just 2 to 3 breaths, the golden crow second prince's body was shattered by the dragon phoenix's claws, and his essence spirit was burned to ashes by the flames on the dragon phoenix's body. On the other side, the dragon phoenix had bitten the golden crow fourth prince's neck and directly bit off his throat. After a few consecutive bites, the golden crow fourth prince's head was crushed and his essence spirit was devoured by Su Zimo along with his blood. After killing the 3 princes, Su Zimo turned around and looked at Xian Shuang, who was escaping towards the inner island. The young master of Penglai Island, Xian Shuang, played a crucial role in his arrival at Penglai Island. This person could not be left alive either. Su Zimo flapped his wings and flames surged into the skies. Wherever he passed, the white clouds in the firmaments were burned red. No matter how fast Xian Shuang was, there was no way he could compare to the Golden Crow race. After Su Zimo killed the 3 princes, he turned around and chased after Xian Shuang. At the same time, Xian Shuang had just run down the holy volcano and arrived at the foot of the mountain. Cultivators of Penglai Island, listen up. An enemy is invading. Come and save me. Xian Shuang could not care less about his dignity and roared hysterically. This roar alarmed the numerous experts on the island. Figures soared into the skies one after another and rushed over. Who is it? How dare you kill on Penglai Island? This. Heavens, what's that? The dozens of figures that rushed over immediately were all conjoint body mighty figures of Penglai Island. Xian Shuang was not happy at all when he saw the conjoint body mighty figures. Instead, he was even more anxious and hollered, Hurry back and ask the patriarch to come out. Right then Su Zimo stood in midair and flapped his wings. Facing the many conjoint body mighty figures not far away, he suddenly opened his mouth. Swoosh! Su Zimo spat out an incomparably scorching scarlet flame that contained an extremely terrifying power. As though it could burn everything in the world to ashes. Even the void began to crack under the burning of the flames. The terrifying flames poured down and enveloped the dozens of mighty figures of Penglai Island instantly. Even Xian Shuang was not spared. This was the innate divine power that Su Zimo comprehended after he entered the conjoint body realm and transformed into the dragon phoenix. It was an innate divine power that belonged to the dragon phoenix. Flames of the dragon phoenix. Ah, ah, ah. A series of tragic cries could be heard from the crowd. Even conjoint body mighty figures could not break free from the sea of flames of the dragon phoenix. In just more than 10 breaths, many mighty figures of Penglai Island were burned into ashes without any corpses left. Chapter 1405. Su Zimo released the dragon phoenix flames and burned all the conjoint body mighty figures of Penglai Island in front of him to ashes. Xian Shuang's pupils constricted when she saw that. Swash! Su Zimo's figure flashed, and a scarlet beam of light closed in. Under the pressure of the dragon phoenix's terrifying aura, Xian Shuang no longer had any thoughts of resisting. Her head was penetrated by Su Zimo's dragon phoenix claw, and her essence spirit was destroyed. The young master of Penglai Island was dead. After killing everyone, Su Zimo swept his gaze to the foot of the mountain. Not far away, there were some corpses of cultivators, Jing Ming, Jing Sheng and the others who followed them here. Those people were initially under the orders of a mighty figure of the heavenly phoenix. However, in order not to leak what happened today, the mighty figure of the heavenly phoenix took the initiative to kill the cultivators of divine Phoenix Island. Su Zimo spread his wings and flew back to the peak of the sacred fire mountain. At that moment, there was no need for him to hide his tracks. With such a huge commotion on the sacred fire mountain, his main body had already been seen by many cultivators of Penglai Island. It was impossible for him to kill everyone. At that moment, no half-martial ancestor appeared. If a half-martial ancestor appeared, the Patriarch of Penglai Island, or the Patriarch of the Golden Crow race descended, he would most likely be doomed. He had to leave the island as soon as possible. Su Zimo returned to the peak of the Sacred Fire Mountain, because he was still concerned about Emoing. Since Emoing had followed him here, he had to bring her back alive. Young master. When she saw Su Zimo in his current form, Emoing was still a little doubtful and tried calling out. It's me, Su Zimo said in a deep voice. We can't stay here for long. Leave with me. Emoing was severely injured and Su Zimo tossed her onto his back. Flapping his wings, he soared into the skies and sped into the distance with a streak of fiery light. At the same time, Su Zimo released his massive spirit consciousness and searched the surface of the sea. After entering the conjoint body realm, Su Zimo's spirit consciousness expanded to an extremely shocking range. Not long after, he saw a figure running away in a panic. A mighty figure of the Heavenly Phoenix. Su Zimo's expression was ice-cold. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure had set a trap and wanted to kill him. He had to kill this person. The speed of the Dragon Phoenix body was too fast. Even the half-martial ancestor of the Golden Crow race could not match up to Su Zimo in speed, let alone a conjoint body mighty figure of the Heavenly Phoenix race. In just a dozen breaths of time, a large scarlet cloud enveloped the Heavenly Phoenix Almighty's head. Sensing danger, the mighty figure of the Heavenly Phoenix looked up instinctively and caught sight of Su Zimo flapping his wings through the clouds. Su Zimo's entire body was burning with raging flames, but his gaze was as cold as ice. The Heavenly Phoenix Almighty felt his scalp tingle. When he met Su Zimo's gaze, his legs went soft. Although he possessed the Divine Phoenix bloodline, he still had to bow down in front of the Dragon Phoenix. Heavenly Phoenix, you can't escape. Su Zimo's voice could be heard slowly, and it was bone-chilling. Ha 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 ha. Seeing that he could not escape, the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure gave up. He paused and reared his head in laughter. It's nothing more than my bad luck. This time round, if I obtain the Divine Phoenix bone, I'll have a chance to transform into a phoenix. Right now you Araki Takeshi will be the one fleeing for your life. Kill. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure was unwilling to be captured. He reared his head and roared. His essence spirit, blood chi and dermic powers were pushed to their limits as he charged towards Su Zimo. Su Zimo had a fearless expression as he swooped down like a gigantic fireball. Boom! There was a deafening sound. Flames splattered everywhere. In that brief pause, the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure was devoured by the gigantic fireball, and his essence spirit was destroyed. Su Zimo's figure reappeared. After calming himself down, he continued speeding towards Divine Phoenix Island. Before he could escape far, Su Zimo suddenly felt his heart skip a beat. It was as though he was targeted by an extremely terrifying existence, and a calamity could befall him at any moment. He had entered the conjoint body realm, and was able to grow into a dragon phoenix with shocking combat strength. There were not many people in Tianhuang mainland who could threaten him. There was only a single possibility for him to sense danger. A Mahayana patriarch. However, he did not know if it was the Patriarch of Penglai Island, or the Patriarch of the Golden Crow race. All of a sudden, a sense of danger flashed in Su Zimo's heart. His figure did not stop, and he subconsciously raised his head to look. The skies suddenly darkened. Above his head, there was a huge black cloud circling around. It was like ink rolling and surging violently. Gradually, the gigantic cloud began to spin, forming a gigantic vortex. At the very center of the whirlpool, there was a strange power. Su Zimo glared at the center of the vortex with a grim expression. All of a sudden, a divine light burst forth from the center of the vortex. Thankfully, Su Zimo had fused the illumination stone into his eyes. Otherwise, that divine light would have been enough to blind him. Pust! When he caught sight of the center of the vortex, Su Zimo could not help but gasp. In the center of the black cloud vortex was a gigantic eye. At that moment, the eye was glaring at Su Zimo with a sinister killing intent. It was as though Su Zimo could not escape the detection of that eye no matter where he escaped. Su Zimo went on a massacre on Penglai Island, and killed the young master of Penglai Island, as well as many conjoint body mighty figures. Finally, a Mahayana patriarch was alarmed. If he was not wrong, this should be the patriarch of Penglai Island. If it was the patriarch of the Golden Crow race, the aura he emitted should be different. Suddenly the eye blinked. An extremely terrifying power enveloped down, and the flames on Su Zimo's body were almost extinguished. His bones creaked as though they were about to fall apart. That was the power of a Mahayana patriarch. The patriarch's true body did not even appear. He merely revealed an eye, and yet he could release a power that could kill a conjoint body dragon phoenix. Against that tremendous pressure, Su Zimo's movement technique's speed decreased significantly. It was impossible for him to escape. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes and channeled his essence spirit. With a thought, he conjured a dermic art. All of a sudden, on his back, on top of the crimson wings, another pair of even larger wings grew out. The pair of wings was golden in color and shone with the resplendent light. It was beautiful and flawless. Even the Golden Crow clan's wings were at a disadvantage in front of this pair of wings. Su Zimo gave a long howl. The pair of golden wings flapped. They were filled with the power of divine powers. Su Zimo's figure transformed into a golden beam of light and vanished from the spot instantly. He even escaped from the gigantic eye's vision and fled into the distance. That burst of speed was way too fast. A hint of shock flashed through the gigantic eye, as though it was in disbelief. This was another innate divine power that Su Zimo comprehended after advancing to the conjoint body realm. It was also an innate divine power of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. It was an extreme speed divine power from the golden-winged roc. That pair of golden wings was the wings of the golden-winged roc. Chapter 1406. After advancing to the Dharma characteristic realm, 4 balls of light appeared in Su Zimo's consciousness. The first ball of light contained a divine power that came from the spirit turtle shield of the sea-calming turtle. It had the strongest defense, and even when Su Zimo was at the Dharma characteristic realm, he managed to block the attack of a half-martial ancestor without dying. At the foot of the sacred fire mountain, when Su Zimo advanced to the conjoint body realm, the second ball of light in his mind shattered, and a golden-winged roc appeared, streaking across his consciousness, leaving behind perfect scars. It was the second of the 4 divine powers of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness, extreme speed. This divine power originated from the golden-winged roc king. Among the demons, the golden-winged roc was the fastest. Once he released this divine power, a pair of golden wings would grow on Su Zimo's back. With a flap of his wings, he could travel 5,000 kilometers in the blink of an eye. Damn it! The enormous eye in the sky flickered with flames of fury. Its voice rumbled like thunder and spread throughout the entire ocean, shocking the entire ocean to the point that it fell silent. The black clouds surged and condensed into a figure. It was an old man in black robes with a grayish-white beard and hair. His eyes were unusually large and bulged slightly. He looked extremely frightening. Patriarch Black Cloud of Penglai Island. Patriarch Black Cloud's eyes darted around, searching for Su Zimo's whereabouts. However, Su Zimo had already escaped 5,000 kilometers away after releasing his extreme speed divine power, and was beyond Patriarch Black Cloud's vision. I don't believe that you can escape from me despite the billions of kilometers between the East and South Seas. Patriarch Black Cloud harumphed coldly, and his glabella shone as he channeled his massive spirit consciousness to envelop the East Sea. The range of a Mahayana patriarch's spirit consciousness was at least 50,000 kilometers. Within 50,000 kilometers, every single action of a living being could not escape the senses of a Mahayana patriarch. That was a rather terrifying ability. Patriarch Black Cloud's spirit consciousness descended, and before long, he discovered a speeding golden beam of light thousands of kilometers away. It was Su Zimo. In this short period of time, Su Zimo had already fled 50,000 miles away. "Araki Takashi, you can't escape," Ancestor Black Cloud murmured. However, this voice traveled thousands of miles and entered Su Zimo's ears clearly. It was as if Ancestor Black Cloud was murmuring beside him. Su Zimo's heart trembled. Just the extreme speed divine ability was not enough. The dragon and phoenix wings on Su Zimo's back flapped at the same time. Originally, Su Zimo's figure was only a ray of golden light. However, there was now a hint of red on top of the golden light. Su Zimo's speed rose again. Ancestor Black Cloud was running at full speed when he suddenly realized that Su Zimo's speed had increased by a lot. The distance between the two of them was getting further and further. Before long, Su Zimo's figure had already completely vanished from the range of his divine sense. This meant that a conjoint body mighty figure had escaped from his pursuit. Ancestor Black Cloud paused in his tracks with a terrible expression. Given Araki Takashi's speed, even if he continued chasing, he would not be able to catch up, and it would be futile. A conjoint body mighty figure escaped. Ancestor Black Cloud was frustrated. Right then, his expression changed as though he sensed something. Instinctively, he raised his head, and a look of fear flashed through his eyes. Thereafter he sneered, "Araki Takashi, you won't be able to escape in the end." On the surface of the sea, Su Zimo sprinted the entire way without daring to relax. He had already left the Patriarch of Giant Eyes far behind him. However, for some reason, the sense of danger in his heart did not disappear. Before long, Su Zimo felt a sense of danger. A terrifying aura suddenly descended upon them. That might was even stronger than the might of Patriarch Giant Eyes just now. Another Patriarch had appeared. Su Zimo was secretly alarmed. What worried him was that he was still caught up by the Mahayana Patriarch, even though he had already released his extreme speed divine powers and dragon phoenix wings. This meant that the Patriarch was even faster than him. If he was not wrong, the one chasing after him should be the Patriarch of the Golden Crow race. Only the Golden Crow race could possess such speed. Immediately after, a scorching aura descended from the skies and enveloped Su Zimo. Before it arrived, the surrounding space was already burned into cracks. Su Zimo did not look up. He no longer had the mood and energy to do so. He could only channel his bloodline and divine powers furiously, while flapping his dragon phoenix wings, to dodge to the other side. Shing! The moment Su Zimo dodged, a gigantic golden claw descended beside him. It was sharp and shone with a cold glint, shattering the void. Su Zimo did not dare to linger, and continued fleeing. On his back, Mo Ying's eyes widened as he looked up. In the skies above, a gigantic figure could be vaguely seen flapping its wings, and flying with a golden light on its body. All of a sudden, the clouds parted, and a huge golden claw descended, grabbing towards their position. Its speed was astonishing, and it reached them in an instant. Mo Ying could clearly see it, but his mind could not react at all. Su Zimo did not look. However, as though he had sensed the danger in advance, he twisted his body and dodged to the other side. Shing! The gigantic claw brushed past Su Zimo's dragon phoenix body in an extremely dangerous manner. The gigantic claw retracted into the clouds and disappeared. It was only at this moment that Mo Ying reacted. All of a sudden, the gigantic claw extended once more and grabbed towards Su Zimo. This time round, it was even faster. Su Zimo dodged once more. Exclamation point. This time round, he was half a beat slower, and was scratched by the fingertip of the gigantic claw. Instantly, a wound that was more than 100 feet long appeared on his wings with blood dripping. Dozens of scarlet feathers fell into the East Ocean. Su Zimo did not say anything, and continued to flap his wings. "Young master, abandon me and escape by yourself." When Mo Ying saw that, he could not help but say anxiously. Su Zimo remained silent, and continued to flee with all his might. Fufu! A cold laugh sounded from the skies that was filled with mockery. The Patriarch of the Golden Crow race in the clouds seemed to be toying with Su Zimo, as he grabbed at him time and time again. The wounds on Su Zimo's body increased. Even though he had the body of a dragon phoenix, and had a strong self-healing ability, he still could not recover after suffering so many injuries, and running for his life. Su Zimo's stamina was getting weaker. In fact, he even felt waves of dizziness, and his vision turned blurry. All of a sudden, in front of him, between the sea and sky, there was a small boat under the floating clouds. Compared to the massive ocean, the boat was as tiny as a drop of seawater, and could not even compare to a single scale on Su Zimo's body. However, when he saw the boat, Su Zimo was invigorated. There was a figure lying lazily on the small boat. He was wearing a green raincoat and a green bamboo hat on his face. Fishing nets were scattered around his feet. This figure allowed the boat to drift aimlessly in the sea without paying any attention to it. He seemed to be leisurely and contented. Chapter 1407. Why is there a fisherman here? Emoing sighed softly. In her opinion, under the pressure of a Mahayana patriarch, even the Dharma Daojun would be torn to pieces, let alone a fisherman. At this moment on the small boat, the fisherman took off the green bamboo hat on his face, revealing an ordinary face. He was unshaven, and he did not care about his appearance. Right then, the patriarch of the Golden Crow race in the clouds attacked once more. A gigantic golden claw that burned with flames descended and grabbed toward Su Zimo. The fisherman's eyes were clear as he looked at the heavens with a fake smile, and suddenly raised his hand. The green bamboo hat flew out of his hand, and turned into a green beam of light that arrived on the golden claw in the blink of an eye, and slashed horizontally. Exclamation point. Crimson blood gushed out and fell to the ground. Mo Ying's pupils constricted violently. She could clearly see that the golden claw that emitted a destructive aura in midair was severed by that inconspicuous green bamboo hat. Even though the gigantic claw was broken, it was still burning with flames and fell into the ocean. The entire ocean burned with raging flames for a long time. Groar! Above the firmament, a shrill cry of agony came. The cry was sharp and ear-piercing. Mo Ying's expression was pained as she hurriedly covered her ears. Thankfully, the cry disappeared as soon as it sounded. The Mahayana patriarch of the Golden Crow race had escaped. Mo Ying's eyes widened, and she could not recover from her shock for a moment. She only felt that everything before her was like a dream. However, the sense of crisis that had originally surrounded her heart had indeed disappeared. Were they saved? She and her young master had actually survived the pursuit of the Golden Crow patriarch? Who was that fisherman? To be able to kill one of the Golden Crow patriarch's legs so easily. How terrifying was the fisherman's cultivation realm. Right then, Su Zimo had already retracted his true form and transformed into his human form, landing on the fisherman's boat with Mo Ying. Su Zimo was covered in injuries and was almost exhausted to be able to escape here. When he landed, he was unable to control his body and almost fell onto the boat. Normally speaking, with Su Zimo's body, not to mention a small boat, even the spirit boat of a cultivator could be easily smashed through. However, when Su Zimo fell on it, the boat did not move at all. The surface of the sea below the boat did not even have the slightest ripple. "Thank you, Senior," Su Zimo quickly said as he struggled to stand up. The fisherman smiled and waved his hand. A mysterious energy enveloped Su Zimo's body, and the pain on his body immediately lessened. Originally, the wounds on Su Zimo's body were all left behind by the Golden Crow tribe's ancestors' giant claw. Not only was the wound charred black, but there were also wisps of divine power remaining. Even with the Dragon Phoenix bloodline, it was extremely slow to heal. With a wave of his hand, the fisherman wiped away the remaining divine ability power on Su Zimo's wounds. The blood of the Dragon Phoenix surged, and the wounds healed at a visible speed. In the blink of an eye, more than half of Su Zimo's injuries were healed. "Lad, we meet again." The fisherman smiled at Su Zimo. Mo Ying's heart skipped a beat when she heard that and could not help but ask, "Young master, do you know this senior? We've met once." Su Zimo nodded. This fisherman was the person who had once guided Su Zimo in his saber technique, and was known as the Smoky Wave Guest. Back at the seaside, this senior's whereabouts were mysterious and unfathomable. Su Zimo had deduced that the Smoky Wave Guest was definitely a peerless expert. However, he had not expected the Smoky Wave Guest's combat strength to be so terrifying that even the patriarch of the Golden Crow race had a leg severed with a single move and was forced to retreat in defeat. The Golden Crow race was one of the primordial 9 races, and their patriarch experts were comparable to emperors of the human race in combat strength. Back then, in a fit of rage, the red-headed ghost attacked and destroyed 2 super sects of the Buddhist monasteries. Furthermore, he caused the death of an emperor of the Buddhist monasteries. The terrifying combat strength of the patriarchs of the primordial races was clear. To be able to defeat a patriarch of the Golden Crow race with ease, could it be? A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind, and he could not help but be shocked. He was truly curious and could not help but ask, Senior, could you be a tribulation transcendence expert? After the conjoint body realm was the Mahayana realm. After the Mahayana realm, there was the tribulation transcendence realm. Conjoint body experts were known as mighty figures. Mahayana experts were known as patriarchs. Su Zimo truly did not know what the titles of tribulation transcendence realm experts were. Even Emoing pricked her ears at the side and widened her eyes curiously, waiting for the fisherman's response. When he heard Su Zimo's question, the smoky wave guest laughed and shook his head. How can you have the chance to meet a tribulation transcendence expert? The smoky wave guest laughed. Ah, what do you mean? Su Zimo was slightly stunned. The smoky wave guest explained. Actually, strictly speaking, tribulation transcendence is not considered a realm. After the Mahayana realm, cultivators will continue to improve their cultivation. When they cultivate to the perfected Mahayana realm, they will sense the heavenly tribulation. If they can transcend the heavenly tribulation, they will leave Tianhuang mainland and ascend to the upper world. There are very few people who can cultivate to the tribulation transcendence realm, and the process of the tribulation transcendence is even more dangerous. If they fail, their souls will dissipate, and they will not enter reincarnation. If they succeed and ascend to the upper world, you naturally won't be able to see them. Su Zimo revealed a look of realization. It was no wonder why he had never heard of tribulation transcendence experts. It turned out that if one could transcend the heavenly tribulation, they would ascend to the upper world. When he heard the words upper world, Su Zimo's heart suddenly surged with anticipation. He suddenly felt that he was getting closer and closer to Dayu. Initially, the distance between the two of them was still unreachable. However, up till this point of his cultivation, he had already begun to come into contact with some matters regarding the upper world. The smoky wave guest continued. At the Mahayana realm, they are known as patriarchs. They can only be called immortals after transcending the tribulation. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Back then, Dayu had said something similar to him as well. There were no immortals in Tianhuang mainland. Su Zimo thought for a moment and asked, Senior, are you an emperor? The smoky wave guest smiled gently and did not deny it. Su Zimo asked again, What's the cultivation realm of an emperor? The smoky wave guest said, Emperors are actually still at the Mahayana realm. However, there are strong and weak Mahayana patriarchs as well. Emperors are the strongest type of patriarch. When you enter the ancestor realm, you'll naturally know the difference between emperors and ordinary patriarchs. The smoky wave guest continued. It's not just patriarchs. Even emperors have differences in strength. Back in the primordial era, the human race rose, and the emperors stood side by side in a dazzling manner. However, there were not many emperors of the human race in the ancient era who could fight against the patriarchs of the primordial 9 races. Those who could defeat the emperors of the primordial races were even rarer. Su Zimo nodded. Right now, the emperors that he knew that could fight against the emperors of the primordial races were none other than the Human Emperor, Fiend Emperor Hatred, Buddha Emperor and Thunder Emperor. Chapter 1408. The Smoky Wave guest said, Back then, there were only 2 emperors of the human race who were the strongest, the Eternal Human Emperor and the Fiend Emperor Hatred. Even the Buddha, Thunder, Saber and Sword Emperors were ranked behind them. However, the Fiend Emperor Hatred's mental demons were too strong. He hated heaven and earth, and his actions were unpredictable. In the end, he committed suicide. It was a pity. If not for the Eternal Human Emperor suppressing the emperors of the primordial 9 races, the human race would definitely not have won that battle. At the mention of the ancient war, the atmosphere on the boat suddenly turned heavy. If not for the fact that the ancient era's experts fought one after another in a bloodbath, how could the human race be as prosperous as it was today? And how could there be the dazzling cultivation civilization of today? Let's not talk about that anymore. The smoky wave guest waved his hand and sized up Su Zimo. You've changed quite a bit after a few years. Su Zimo replied. It's also a coincidence that happened by chance. Your cultivation is still too low. The smoky wave guest shook his head. In this generation, the two great taboos, Ho and Dragon Phoenix, have appeared one after another. The primordial races will definitely make a huge move. Although you have a taboo body, your cultivation is only at the conjoint body realm. You can't even resist against the patriarchs of the primordial races, let alone the emperors of the primordial races. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he asked, Senior, do you mean that the primordial races might start a war on Tianhuang mainland? It's not a possibility, it's a certainty. The smoky wave guest sighed gently. Initially, this war might have happened many years later. But now that the two taboos have appeared, the primordial races won't be able to sit still either. The human race has a long history and has many supersections. With so many years of foundation, can't we defeat the primordial races? Su Zimo frowned slightly. It's difficult, the smoky wave guest said. Without a peerless hero like the eternal human emperor, it's difficult for the human race to fight against the primordial races. It's still unknown who will rise and fall in Tianhuang mainland, the smoky wave guest said meaningfully. After pondering for a while, the smoky wave traveler said, You are the forbidden dragon phoenix. If you return to the dragons, you will definitely be protected by them. If you still care about your relationship with the human race, I hope that you dragons can join forces with the human race to fight against the other primordial races when the Great War comes. Senior, don't worry. Su Zimo nodded. In fact, Su Zimo had been preparing for this even without Smoky Wave Guest's reminder. Wu Dao's true body had sent the Kuan Peng egg back to the Northern Ocean in hopes of borrowing the Kuan tribe's strength in the future. Senior, how is your combat power compared to the human emperors of the ancient times? Su Zimo asked again. In his opinion, being able to easily defeat an ancestor of the Golden Crow tribe, Yen Boku's combat strength was definitely top-notch among rulers. The Smoky Wave Traveler smiled and shook his head. I'm far inferior to the eternal human emperor. The news of the Dragon Phoenix's descent will spread throughout Tianhuang mainland before long. Even Divine Phoenix Island won't be able to protect you. You have to head to Dragon Bone Valley. A hint of fear flashed through the Smoky Wave Traveler's eyes. The Emperor of the Golden Crow tribe is extremely strong. He's even stronger than the Golden Crow Emperor of the Primordial Era. Only Dragon Bone Valley can protect you. Senior, you can't defeat him either? Su Zimo asked with a frown. It's hard to say. The Smoky Wave Traveler shook his head. Furthermore, I've already sensed the heavenly tribulation. I don't have much time left in Tianhuang mainland. If I leave, Divine Phoenix Island will no longer have an emperor. If there's any danger, we can only rely on you. Don't worry, Senior, Su Zimo said in a deep voice. As the young master of Divine Phoenix Island, I'll definitely protect the living beings of Divine Phoenix Island with all my might. Yes, the Smoky Wave Traveler said. I'll tear through space and teleport you to Dragon Bone Valley. You don't have to return to Divine Phoenix Island. The birth of the Dragon Phoenix would definitely cause a huge storm. Su Zimo could only survive if he hid in Dragon Bone Valley. The Smoky Wave Traveler stretched out his hand and made a grabbing motion in the air. It didn't seem like he was making any special movements. The void in front of him suddenly collapsed, revealing a dark and deep passageway with a sinister wind inside. He tore through space casually and formed a spatial tunnel. This was equivalent to summoning a major transference talisman. Just the casual means of an emperor was enough to shock one. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes slightly, seemingly shocked. Go on. The Smoky Wave Traveler nodded slightly. Young master, I'll go with you too, Emoing said hurriedly. Su Zimo shook his head. No, that's Dragon Bone Valley. You're a human, and it's inconvenient for you to enter. Don't worry, we'll meet again. With that said, Su Zimo leaped and entered the spatial tunnel. The Smoky Wave Traveler retracted his palm, and the void gradually healed. You should go back too. The Smoky Wave Traveler waved at Mo Ying. Mo Ying's body floated towards Divine Phoenix Island uncontrollably and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The smoky wave traveler lay down again and smiled. A strange sanguine glint flashed through the depths of his eyes. He picked up the green bamboo hat beside him and covered his face. Dragonbone Valley. A huge crack suddenly appeared in the sky, and Su Zimo's figure descended. Looking at the familiar surroundings and sensing the aura of the dragons, Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief. Thankfully, nothing went wrong. Smoky Wave Traveler, Smoky Wave Traveler. Su Zimo murmured softly in deep thought. Who's there? After Su Zimo descended, he soon alarmed some patrolling dragons. Many dragons rushed over. You are, young master. When the dragons saw Su Zimo, they were stunned for a moment before they reacted quickly and exclaimed, Young master is still alive. The dragons cheered. During the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley, while others did not know that Su Zimo was the young master of the dragons knew it clearly. When they heard that Su Zimo was exiled into the void, many dragons were dejected. Even Long Song, who possessed the bloodline of a five-clawed divine dragon, could not bring himself to be happy. Logically speaking, now that Su Zimo was dead, he should have successfully inherited the position of the young master of the dragons. However, in his heart, he would rather that Su Zimo was still alive. That way he could continue to improve and have a goal to chase after. Long Imo had returned. This news spread rapidly throughout the Dragonbone Valley. Long Shi rushed over. The once hot-tempered tyrant dragon was now teary-eyed and laughing at the same time. Su Zimo even caught sight of Solitary Cloud. Solitary Cloud was wearing the scarlet robes of the Illumination Dragon lineage. It was clear that he had already joined the Illumination Dragon lineage. Su Zimo could clearly sense that the bloodline of the dragons in Solitary Cloud was extremely pure. This meant that Solitary Cloud had already broken free from the bloodline of a flood dragon and had completely transformed into a true dragon. Master. Solitary Cloud knelt before Su Zimo and kowtowed. Good, very good. Su Zimo nodded and waved his sleeves, helping Solitary Cloud up. In the Dao Inheritance Ground, Solitary Cloud had once risked his life to save him. Today, Su Zimo was happy to see that Solitary Cloud could transform into a true dragon and obtain an opportunity that belonged to him. Long Imo, it's great that you're not dead. Ha 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 ha. Right then, Long Song's hearty laughter sounded. Long Song strode over and said with a smile, You're back at the right time. Let's fight again. I've comprehended another innate divine power that I can show you. Chapter 1409. Oh. Su Zimo shifted his gaze to Long Song and nodded slightly. Not bad. You've already entered the conjoint body realm. Long Song had been stuck at the perfected Dharma characteristic realm for many years. Although he was defeated in the battle against Su Zimo, it ignited his fighting spirit instead. Furthermore, he gained a lot from that battle. Not long after returning to seclusion, he felt his cultivation realm loosen and broke through to the conjoint body realm. When he was at the Dharma characteristic realm, Long Song had already comprehended two innate divine powers. After entering the conjoint body realm, he comprehended another innate divine power, and his combat strength increased exponentially. That was the reason why he looked for Su Zimo excitedly and wanted to fight again. Long Song, what are you doing? Long Shi frowned and glared at Long Song, saying in an unfriendly tone, Young master has just entered the Dharma characteristic realm, and you're already at the conjoint body realm. Why are you fighting? It's not fair at all. Haha. Long Song laughed and mocked. You're already feeling the pinch before we even start fighting. If we really fight, the two of you will have to join forces. It's none of your business. Long Shi waved her fists. Forget it. Long Song smiled. Young master, let's fight again when you enter the conjoint body realm. Among these dragons, you're the only one worthy of being my opponent. Conjoint body realm? Su Zimo smiled gently. I'm one now. Long Song was stunned. The dragons widened their eyes as well and looked at Su Zimo in disbelief, thinking that they had heard wrongly. How many years had it been since their young master entered the Dharma characteristic realm? Dragons had long lifespans. For dragons, the passage of these years was like the blink of an eye, and they did not feel anything at all. Su Zimo did not say anything else, and merely released the might of a conjoint body slowly. The dragons were shocked. Indeed, Long Song was also overjoyed. His eyes lit up as he said, "Good, good, good. That's perfect. Let's go to the dragon blood battlefield and fight again." "You are no match for me." Su Zimo shook his head. "What is it?" Long Song's face darkened, and he said with some displeasure, "Are you looking down on me?" After all, Long Song had the bloodline of the five-clawed divine dragon, which was the noblest bloodline among dragons. He had his own pride in his bones. He had indeed lost to Su Zimo in the past, and he had accepted his defeat wholeheartedly. But he never admitted defeat. He believed that one day, he would defeat Su Zimo fair and square. He wanted to reclaim the glory that belonged to the five-clawed divine dragon. Su Zimo shook his head and did not explain. Instead, he activated his bloodline, and his bones crackled as an extremely terrifying aura burst forth from his body. Roar! Su Zimo reared his head and roared into the skies. That roar was not purely a dragon's roar. There was also a clear and loud phoenix cry mixed in. Immediately after, Su Zimo's hands transformed into a pair of menacing claws. Suddenly, a pair of gigantic wings extended from his back. Every single feather was scarlet in color and burned with raging flames. Su Zimo did not completely conjure his dragon phoenix body. Even so, the taboo aura emitted from his body caused the dragons to change their expressions and shudder. The dragons present knelt on the ground one after another with shocked expressions. Even Long Song lowered his head against the taboo aura. At that moment, the bloodline of the five-clawed divine dragon was completely suppressed. Not far away, there were a few elders of the dragon clan who were flying in the air. But when this aura descended, the elders of the dragon clan were greatly shocked. They hurriedly descended from the air, and their expressions were uncertain. Bang! 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 One after another, powerful auras burst forth from the Dragon Bone Valley. Some of the grand elders of the dragons who were initially in seclusion were alarmed by the taboo aura, and came out of seclusion one after another, looking over. Taboo Dragon Phoenix. The grand elder of the Black Dragon people exclaimed with widened eyes. "It's done!" The grand elder of the Candle Dragons could not help but burst into laughter in his excitement. The dragons were shocked when they heard the words Taboo Dragon Phoenix. Long Song felt a sense of helplessness as he looked at the figure in midair. A primordial taboo. Although his bloodline was shocking, he was extremely talented and had many trump cards. He did not have the ability to challenge a taboo up till now. Long Song laughed bitterly and shook his head. Initially, he was filled with confidence and looked forward to fighting against Su Zimo again. To think that the gap between the two of them would widen after a few years. Long Mo. The voice of the Candle Dragon's Grand Elder sounded. "Follow me to meet someone." Su Zimo surveyed his surroundings and his gaze landed on Long Song. Nodding, he transformed into his human form and left with the Candle Dragon's Grand Elder. Before long, the two of them arrived in front of a gigantic cave. A strong herbal smell came from the cave that was extremely pungent. The cave was extremely spacious, and there was only a single person with scarlet hair that resembled flames. His face was rough, and his gaze was like a torch as he exuded an extremely powerful might. Red-headed ghost. Su Zimo was slightly stunned. "You've already transformed into a dragon phoenix?" The red-headed ghost swept his gaze across Su Zimo and asked. Su Zimo nodded before frowning. "Red-headed ghost, you're injured?" "Yes." The red-headed ghost's expression turned terrible. "Why aren't you recuperating in the primordial divine spring?" Su Zimo asked again. The Candle Dragon's Grand Elder at the side explained. "Although the primordial divine spring can revive the dead, its impact on Ancestor Realm experts is almost negligible." "Who can hurt you?" Su Zimo frowned and could not help but ask. What was the red-headed ghost's combat strength? Back then, he was able to fight against a Dharma overlord of the Buddhist monasteries, and both sides were severely injured. He had once destroyed 2 super sects single-handedly, but now the red-headed ghost was injured. The red-headed ghost said in a deep voice. "After I left the Dragon Burial Valley that day, I did not return to the Dragon Bone Valley. Instead, I went to another place." Su Zimo pondered for a moment and suddenly thought of something, blurting out. Thousand Demon Valley. That's right. The red-headed ghost nodded. You once mentioned to me that a blood face appeared in the 1,000-year blood sea of Thousand Demon Valley. Naturally, I had to check it out. Back then, a blood face was hidden at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley. If not for Daiyu's appearance, even Monk Yuan Bei and the red-headed ghost would not have noticed the existence of the blood face. As for the blood face, there was a high chance that it was the true culprit behind the destruction of the great Qian Empire. The death of the red-headed ghost's child might have something to do with the blood face as well. Given the red-headed ghost's personality, there was naturally no way he would miss out on news of the blood face. You saw him? Su Zimo asked with a frown. No, the red-headed ghost said with a grim expression. I didn't manage to see clearly what was beneath the 1,000-year blood sea. However, I was injured and almost died within. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. The 1,000-year blood sea was even more terrifying than he had imagined. The Candle Dragon's Grand Elder said in a deep voice, Zimo, that blood sea is extremely terrifying. You must not set foot in it before you cultivate to the Mahayana realm. Su Zimo nodded. Chapter 1410. Where have you been for the past few years? The red-headed ghost asked. Su Zimo recounted his encounter on Divine Phoenix Island, including killing the 3 Golden Crow Princes on Penglai Island and the Smoky Wave Guest. The Smoky Wave Guest, the Grand Elder of the Candle Dragons, narrowed his gaze. If nothing goes wrong, he should be the Saber Emperor of this generation. The red-headed ghost said in a deep voice, Since your identity as the Dragon Phoenix has been exposed, it won't be long before it spreads throughout Tianhuang mainland. Don't leave the Dragon Bone Valley for the time being. This news would definitely cause a huge uproar when it spread to the various forbidden grounds. Once Su Zimo appeared, there was a high chance that the experts of the primordial races would attack and kill him. It was the same as Night Spirit back then. Let's go to the ancestral dragon land. Right then, the red-headed ghost said in a deep voice. Let Long Emo and Long Song go together. That's the only place where they can grow at the fastest speed. If the other primordial races were to join forces to kill the taboo dragon phoenix, the dragons would definitely not be able to defend against it. They might only be able to survive this calamity if they allowed the taboo to grow as soon as possible. Ancestral Dragon Land? Su Zimo was slightly stunned. He had not stayed in the Dragon Bone Valley for long, but he had never heard of such a place. That was a space created by the Dragon Phoenix in the primordial era. If the ancestral dragons of every generation could not transcend the tribulation and exhausted their lifespans, they would be buried there. The red-headed ghost said in a deep voice, The ancestral dragon land is filled with an extremely rich ancestral dragon chi. You'll definitely be able to cultivate there with twice the results with half the effort. Why don't you let our clansmen cultivate there? Su Zimo could not help but ask. The red-headed ghost sneered. Do you think that the ancestral dragon chi is something that anyone can withstand? If you weren't a dragon phoenix and Long Song was a 5-clawed divine dragon, any other adult conjoint body dragon would explode and die if they entered. The Candle Dragon Grand Elder said. The forbidden dragon phoenix of the primordial age must have left some inheritances in the ancestral dragon land. Only your bloodline is qualified to inherit them. Go there and cultivate. Unless the Dragon Bone Valley is destroyed, you will be perfectly safe in the ancestral dragon land. There won't be any danger. All right, Su Zimo nodded. With Wu Dao's true body and Qinglian's true body taking care of Tianhuang mainland, there should not be much chaos. Go ahead. I still have to go into seclusion to heal my injuries. The red-headed ghost waved his hand. Come with me. The Zhu Dragon's Great Elder was the first to leave the cave, followed by Su Zimo. Soon, the two of them arrived in front of the ancestral dragon divine pillar. The Grand Elder of the Candle Dragons spread out his spirit sense and sent out a series of messages. Before long, the Grand Elders of the other 4 dragons had all arrived, including Long Song. Open up the ancestral dragon land and send Long Emo and Long Song in. The Zhu Dragon's Great Elder said in a deep voice. Normally speaking, opening the ancestral dragon land required the elders of the 5 lineages to discuss together. But now, Su Zimo was a dragon phoenix and Long Song was a 5-lineage divine dragon. This was an unprecedented situation. There was no need for discussion, and the 5 grand elders made the decision directly. The spatial node of the ancestral dragon land was on the ancestral dragon divine pillar. The 5 grand elders joined forces, and each pricked their fingertips, squeezing out a drop of blood. It landed in midair and transformed into a divine dragon that entered the ancestral dragon divine pillar. Only the bloodline of the 5 dragons of the ancestral dragon could open up the ancestral dragon land. Rumble. Boom. The ancestral dragon divine pillar swayed, and a gigantic cave gradually appeared on the gigantic stone pillar, filled with an ancient aura. Long Mo Long Song, go on in. The Zhu dragon's great elder nodded slightly with a hint of anticipation and relief in his eyes. Su Zimo and Long Song exchanged glances and entered the cave without hesitation, disappearing from the Dragon Bone Valley. This was an extremely desolate land. From afar there was no green life force. In the distance, there were gigantic stone pillars that towered into the skies with words that belonged to dragons carved on them. Beneath every stone pillar, there was an ancestral dragon buried there. The stone pillars were like tombstones of the human race. The moment the two of them arrived in this space, they sensed an extremely powerful ancestral dragon chi surging into their bodies wildly, tempering and changing their bodies. Ugh! Long Song grunted. Poof! 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 In just the blink of an eye, his skin began to crack open, leaving bloody marks on his body. His entire body was covered in blood. One had to know that the ancestral dragon chi here was left behind by the former ancestral dragon tribe. Normally speaking, only ancestral dragons could cultivate here. Conjoint body mighty figures could not withstand it at all. However, Long Song was a 5-clawed divine dragon after all. Although he was only at the conjoint body realm, his physique and bloodline were already extremely strong. He endured the baptism of the ancestral dragon chi and panted heavily. On the other side, Su Zimo merely frowned. The ancestral dragon chi entered his body and gradually fused into his physique and bloodline, without causing much of a reaction. The difference between the two of them was obvious. Is it all right? Su Zimo turned around and asked. He could not help with that pain, and could only rely on Long Song to endure, resolve and comprehend it himself. It's all right, let's go. Long Song grit his teeth and said. Under the immense pain his voice trembled slightly. Su Zimo nodded, and began walking towards the tall stone pillars in the distance. After taking a few steps, Su Zimo frowned. The deeper he went into the ancestral dragon grounds, the richer, stronger and more berserk the ancestral dragon chi became. After taking a few steps, even his dragon phoenix body felt a little uncomfortable. Su Zimo turned back. True enough, Long Song had a pained expression and could no longer hold on. The veins on his neck popped, and he suddenly growled deeply. He reverted to his true form and lay on the ground, panting heavily as he dispelled the ancestral dragon chi in his body. I can't advance any further. Long Song's voice was weak. Young master, walk forward yourself. Be careful. All right. Su Zimo nodded and turned to continue forward. As he gradually ventured deeper into the ancestral dragon grounds, the ancestral dragon chi became richer and surged into his body wildly, baptizing his bloodline and physique continuously. By the time Su Zimo arrived outside the tomb, his dragon phoenix body had reached its limits as well. Su Zimo was sweating profusely and scarlet scales grew on his body. He was on the verge of reverting to his true form. There's actually a junior who can make it this far? Right then, Su Zimo suddenly heard a soft exclamation of surprise. Su Zimo looked in the direction of the voice. At the entrance of the graveyard, there was an old man with 1 foot in the grave. He was looking at him with a hunched and thin body. He held a broom in his hand and seemed to be cleaning the graveyard. The old man's gaze was filled with a strange power. The ancestral dragon chi in Su Zimo's body exploded instantly. Roar! Su Zimo reared his head and roared into the skies, completely reverting to his true form. He had the body of a dragon and the tail of a phoenix. A pair of gigantic scarlet wings grew on his back, and his entire body burned with raging flames. The ancestral dragon chi revolved, and its might spread, causing the entire ancestral dragon grounds to tremble. Taboo Dragon Phoenix. The old man narrowed his eyes. Chapter 1411. Suddenly, the cultivation world of Tianhuang mainland was in an uproar as news spread one after another, causing a huge uproar, and countless cultivators of the sects were shocked. Have you heard? Araki Takashi isn't dead. He appeared in the southern region a while ago. I heard about it too. I heard that the primordial divine spring even appeared in the southern region and was occupied by the Nangong family. It seems like Araki Takashi fought with the 3 aristocratic families before. I don't know the details. Back then, Su Zimo killed many mighty figures and 2 half-martial ancestors of the Dongfang and Shiman aristocratic families in the underground of Baiming Town. Both aristocratic families kept quiet about this matter. Who would publicize this kind of thing with great fanfare? Therefore, although there was news of Araki Takashi's appearance in the cultivation world, no one knew what exactly happened in the southern region. Araki Takashi is truly lucky. He didn't die even after being exiled into the void by a half-martial ancestor. I heard that Araki Takashi has already entered the conjoint body realm. If he enters the conjoint body realm, I'm afraid only half-martial ancestors in the cultivation world can suppress him. Chaos Essence Sect. D-Fan sat in his cave abode with a grim expression when he heard the news from his disciples. He said in a deep voice, "Send some more cultivators to the southern region to investigate Araki Takashi's whereabouts. Report any news immediately. Master, if Araki Takashi enters the conjoint body realm, he must have fused with 3 supreme Dharma bodies. I'm afraid it'll be troublesome," the cultivator said in a deep voice. Humph, D-Fan said coldly. No matter how strong he has only just entered the conjoint body realm. A half-martial ancestor is not someone a conjoint body mighty figure can challenge across major cultivation realms. Yes, the cultivator replied hurriedly. After pondering for a moment, D-Fan continued. You don't have to worry too much. If I attack again, I won't be alone. This time round, even if I have to join forces with other half-martial ancestors, I'll kill Araki Takashi completely. In the world of self-cultivators, when they heard the news that Araki Takashi was still alive, some hated him, some were worried, and naturally, some were happy. For example, the people from Misty Peak, Great Zhou Dynasty's Ji Yaoxue, 100 Refinement Sect's Extreme Fire, Elixir Yang Sect's Xiaoning, Demon Sect's Demonist Ji, apart from the world of cultivators on Tianhuang continent. It also caused a great stir in the Forbidden Lands. The fact that Araki Takashi was still alive was not a big deal to the Forbidden Lands. What really set off a storm in the Forbidden area was the news from Penglai Island. Descent of the Dragon Phoenix. Moreover, this Dragon Phoenix was one of Araki Takashi's true bodies. This news had just spread over when it alarmed the various Forbidden Lands ancestor realm powerhouses. I heard that the Dragon Phoenix has already returned to the Dragon Bone Valley. It's not easy for us to attack. That old fart from the Dragon Clan should still be alive. With him around, it's indeed difficult. Actually, there's no need to worry, a powerful humanoid living being said slowly. If a taboo wants to grow, it requires immense resources. Without a long time, it can forget about entering the ancestor realm. That's right. Although the bloodline of a taboo is strong, it's extremely difficult to enter the ancestor realm. Becoming an emperor is even harder than ascending to the heavens. Furthermore, that old bastard dragons doesn't have many years left to live. Another humanoid living being said indifferently. That old bastard will probably die before the Dragon Phoenix grows up. Without him, the dragons are like pythons without claws and fangs. They're still at our mercy. What about Araki Takashi's Qinglian's true body? Another person asked. I heard that Araki Takashi's Qinglian's true body is not dead either. Furthermore, it has already entered the conjoint body realm. That's easy to handle, someone said. There are no sects or factions in the human race that can protect him. We don't even have to do anything. Any half-martial ancestor can kill him. Furthermore, there are some monster incarnates among the younger generation of the primordial races in this generation as well. For example, the divine prince of the Protoss, the Xiaoxiang goddess, the seventh prince of the Golden Crow race, Yuluosha of the Rakshasa race, young master Gui Wu of the Witch race, Tung Lingzi of the Bloodvine race, and the remnant Eye of our Heavenly Eye race. Any one of them is enough to kill Araki Takeshi. The birth of these monster incarnates of the primordial races is a disaster for the cultivation world of Tianhuang mainland. Another humanoid living being grinned with a cruel expression. Another person seemed to have recalled something and sighed emotionally. However, speaking of which, although the remnant Eye's talent and intelligence are strong, and he did not hesitate to destroy his own eyes in order to cultivate the heavenly eye, his achievements are probably not comparable to that person back then. Are you talking about that abandoned child back then? That's right. That lad's mother had an agreement with a human cultivator, and he was born. Therefore, his bloodline was impure, and he was considered a bastard, and was despised by his clansmen. However, to think that this lad would display such terrifying talent after joining the Buddhist monasteries of the human race. Although his bloodline was impure, his combat strength was stronger than any of the Heavenly Eye race members. He became the strongest young cultivator of the human race in that generation. The other person nodded as well with a reminiscing gaze. Back then, only the remnant of the Bloodvine race could fight against him. It's a pity that both of them died many years ago. Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. It's long in the past. Two great taboos have descended one after another. Seems like this generation is indeed unusual. The fortune of the human race has run out. No matter who it is, nobody can stop us from returning and ruling over Tianhuang mainland. The human race has occupied Tianhuang mainland for so many years. It's time to return. North region. The land of the far north was filled with glaciers and snowy mountains. Indeed, there was a North Sea among the three seas. However, the surface of the North Sea was frozen for 10,000 years, and the ice layer was at least 100 feet thick. A bone-chilling wind blew here all year round. The extreme north-east wind of the first stage of the Three Tribulations domain of the Tao Inheritance Ground was the cold wind outside the North Sea. Even conjoint body mighty figures did not dare to enter the depths of the North Sea Glacier. That was because the depths of the North Sea Glacier was one of the 9 forbidden grounds of Tianhuang mainland. It was also the legendary North Sea. In such a harsh environment it was completely deserted. No cultivator would come here at all. Not even vegetation could be seen on the North Sea Glacier. However, on this day, a person arrived on the North Sea Glacier. This person looked young and wore purple robes. His black hair draped over his shoulders. His eyes were clear and his face was delicate as he walked towards the depths of the glacier. The purple robes on this person were thin, but his face was rosy as though he could not feel any coldness. A bone-chilling wind howled. When it blew on this person, it disappeared instantly, as though it was evaporated. The snowflakes that filled the skies above the glacier turned into water droplets and fell within a 10-foot radius of this person. This person advanced slowly without a single snowflake falling from his body. This purple-robed youth was Wu Dao's true body, who had rushed over from the south region. By the time Wu Dao's true body arrived at the North Sea Glacier, the Dragon Phoenix true body had already returned to the Dragon Bone Valley and entered the ancestral Dragon Land. Thereafter, the Dragon Phoenix true body severed its connection with the two true bodies and entered seclusion to cultivate. The reason why Wu Dao's true body came to the frozen North Sea was because of a single matter. Chapter 14:12. For other cultivators, the North Sea Glacier was a bitter and cold place. The chilling wind was bone-chilling. Cultivators with low cultivation realms and weak bloodlines would not be able to stay here, let alone stroll leisurely on the glacier. However, that was nothing for Wu Dao's true body. Wu Dao's true body had a strong blood qi, and his entire body was like a gigantic furnace. His martial spirit burned fiercely, and any chilling wind would turn into nothingness before they could approach him. Wu Dao's true body advanced on the North Sea Glacier. Unknowingly, more than half a month had passed. He was in no hurry. Instead, he released his spirit consciousness and sensed some of the mysteries of the North Sea Glacier. This bitter and cold place was not as lifeless as it seemed on the surface. On the contrary, if one were to investigate carefully, they would be able to see some life forms that could only be born in such an environment within the glacier. Wu Dao's true body could clearly sense an ice silkworm lying quietly in the crevice of the glacier not far away. This ice silkworm was extremely precious. The silk that it spat out contained an extremely cold attribute that was not inferior to divine weapons. If it was not troublesome, armor made from the ice silkworm's silk would also be the best defensive dermic weapon. This environment gave birth to some strange life forms. Wu Dao's true body did not harm them, and merely smiled gently as he continued traversing the glacier. When his feet landed on the glacier, he could even sense some living beings living in the deep sea beneath the thick glacier. This place was not far away from North Sea. The closer he was to North Sea, the lower the temperature. To be able to survive in this sea, one had to be at least the overlord of a region. They were equivalent to the Dharma Daojun of the human race. At that moment, 3 North Sea demons were gathered beneath Wu Dao's true body in the ocean region beneath the glacier. Great demons of the demon race were equivalent to conjoint body mighty figures of the human race. It was nothing much for great demons to gather. However, the conversation of the 3 North Sea demons made Wu Dao's true body frown. Why would a human come to North Sea? I'm not sure. Judging from this human's cultivation, he's only just entered the Dharma characteristic realm. To be able to make it this far, this person's blood qi is so strong. That's right. Such strong qi and blood are great supplements for us. The 3 great demons began to discuss in the deep sea. One of the great demons exclaimed softly, "This person has stopped. Could it be that he can hear our conversation? How is this possible?" Another demon shook his head. This place isn't like the periphery of North Sea, where the glacier is close to 1,000 feet thick. Even conjoint body mighty figures won't be able to hear what we're discussing below. Moreover, if he heard our conversation, his first reaction would be to turn around and run away. That's right, haha. The 3 North Sea monsters were gathered in the depths of the sea. Through the thick layer of ice, they looked up at Wu Dao's true body and discussed how to divide and devour him. This human is way too skinny. He's not even enough to fill the gaps between our teeth. A huge ancient killer whale said with a buzzing sound. It'll be fine after you're done talking. Another ancient frost shark laughed. You're still hoping for a puny human to fill your stomachs? Right then a commotion came from the top of the glacier. The 3 great demons in the deep sea looked over and could not help but frown. With every step that the human took, the glacier beneath his feet would melt, leaving a deep footprint on it. It didn't take long for the human to walk a circle above them. The 3 great demons were shocked to discover that the human's footprints were connected and surrounded the area they were in. What was this for? Was this a warning? The 3 North Sea great demons exchanged glances. They did not feel any fear and were enraged instead. They were great demons of North Sea, who roamed this place fearlessly. Apart from some living beings in the forbidden grounds of North Sea, who else would dare to threaten them? Moreover, this was an outsider from the human race. Furthermore, this human was only at the Dharma characteristic realm. This was not a warning. This was a provocation. The 3 great demons no longer hesitated and burst forth from the depths of the sea. Bang! 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 There were 3 deafening sounds. The glacier of North Sea exploded and 3 figures with powerful auras tore through the layers of glacier and leaped out from the depths of the sea. The 3 North Sea great demons had already transformed into their human forms and stood in midair. Even so, the humanoid great demons still exuded a powerful might. Their bodies seemed to be one with the entire world and were unshakable. The 3 North Sea great demons surrounded Wu Dao's true body in the middle with cold and murderous expressions. Wu Dao's true body was expressionless as he looked at the 3 great demons in midair and asked indifferently, "Didn't you guys see my warning?" "Warning?" The ancient frost shark sneered. "Do you think a mere Dharma Daojun like you is worthy of warning us? From your tone, you must be from some major sect." The ancient killer whale grinned. When the three great demons saw how calm Wu Dao's true body was against their might, they deduced that Wu Dao's true body must be a paragon of some super sect. The ancient killer whale changed the topic. However, this is not your cultivation world. This is North Sea, one of the 8 demon regions. How dare you come to our territory and act so arrogantly in front of us? You must be tired of living. The other great demon was an ancient giant horseshoe crab. The giant horseshoe crab laughed as well. Even if you're a disciple of a super sect, no one will know who killed you if you die in this desolate and cold place. No matter how powerful the faction backing you is, it's no threat to us great demons, who can come and go as we please. Wu Dao's true body shook his head. I don't have any faction backing me, nor am I a disciple of a super sect. After pausing for a moment, Wu Dao's true body continued. However, you guys had better not provoke me. I'm the greatest threat myself. Huh. The 3 North Sea great demons froze for a moment, as though they had heard something unbelievable. Ha 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 ha. Immediately, the 3 North Sea great demons burst into laughter with mocking expressions. My horizons have truly widened, the ancient frost shark grinned. Nowadays, even an early-stage Dharma characteristic human cultivator dares to come to our territory and threaten great demons. Let's see what you're going to threaten us with. The ancient killer whale roared and transformed into a streak of light in a flash, charging towards Su Zimo fiercely. The ancient killer whale believed that with its conjoint body realm physique, it could smash the Dharma Daojun into pieces just by charging forward. Wu Dao's true body's expression turned cold, and his eyes lit up. His martial spirit burned and his blood qi churned, letting out a deafening boom. It was as though he had vanished, leaving only a gigantic furnace on the spot. The thick glacier beneath the furnace melted rapidly. Gulp, gulp. The seawater in this region boiled instantly with a terrifying might. Chapter 14:13. The ice layer that was close to 1,000 feet melted in the blink of an eye, and the seawater boiled. One could imagine how high the temperature of this cauldron was. The ancient killer whale had just rushed close when he felt a rolling heat wave rushing towards him. His hair and beard instantly burned. In the ancient killer whale's senses, there seemed to be a huge cauldron in front of him. If he continued to charge over, it would be equivalent to jumping into the cauldron and being burned to ashes. The ancient killer whale hurriedly stopped. Right then Wu Dao's true body attacked. There were no fancy techniques or movements. It was just a simple punch towards the ancient killer whale. Blood qi surged and the sound of a tsunami could be heard. Tsunami blood. The 3 North Sea great demons were shocked. Although they had cultivated to the level of great demons, their bloodlines had not reached the level of tsunami blood. At that moment, the blood qi that erupted from Wu Dao's true body's punch almost drowned the ancient killer whale. The ancient killer whale only felt suffocated, and did not even have time to transform into his true body. He could only raise his arms and resist with all his might. At the same time, the ancient killer whale urged his essence spirit, and prepared to use his arms to block the attack of his true body, before transforming into his true body. Bang! Wu Dao's true body punched heavily on the ancient killer whale's arms. Crack! Immediately after, the sound of bones cracking could be heard. The ancient killer whale's thick arms were broken by Wu Dao's true body's fist. What was even more terrifying was that the power of this punch was as turbulent as the sea and as violent as fire. It broke the ancient killer whale's arms without any signs of weakening. The ancient killer whale's true body had only transformed halfway. Wu Dao's true body's fists landed heavily on his body. Terrifying power surged into his body instantly, and destroyed all the vitality in the great demon's body. His internal organs were smashed and more than half of his bones were shattered. Boom! Under the gazes of the ancient frost shark and the ancient giant horseshoe crab, the ancient killer whale was blown up by Wu Dao's true body, before it could even transform into its true body. Its essence spirit had just escaped when it was crushed by Wu Dao's true body's fist intent, that was as heavy as a mountain. It died on the spot. Dead. A great demon of the North Sea who had cultivated for tens of thousands of years, had been smashed to pieces by a single punch. Initially, the other 2 great demons had the mentality of watching the show, and had no intention of attacking. At this moment, the remaining two North Sea monsters were completely dumbfounded. Was this the power of the Dharma Daojun? How could this be? Although the ancient killer whale had fallen, and didn't even transform into its true form, it had underestimated its enemy. But even so, it was impossible for the two great demons to destroy the ancient killer whale's body with a single punch. At this moment, Wu Dao's original body turned around, and his gaze landed on them. His expression was as calm as water, and his expression was indifferent. To the Dharma Daojun, killing a great demon was as normal as eating and drinking. The calmer Wu Dao's true body was, the more disturbed the hearts of the two demons were. Wu Dao's gaze caused the two great demons' hair to stand on end. Roar! Roar! The two great demons did not dare to think too much, and reverted to their true forms right away. In the void, a gigantic shark demon floated. Its body was more than 1,000 feet long, and every single one of its teeth shone with a cold glint like divine weapons, as it emitted an extremely cold aura. Another ancient giant horseshoe crab appeared, resembling a gigantic tortoise shell with a long tail behind it. Beneath the shell, long legs grew side by side. They were sharp and opened their bloody mouths with a torrential stench. Compared to the two great demons, Wu Dao's true body was as insignificant as a speck of dust. However, in terms of aura, the two great demons were completely disadvantaged. Wu Dao's true body walked towards the two great demons with a calm expression. The might of a conjoint body mighty figure, and the rich and violent demonic qi, could not get close to him at all. His body was like a gigantic furnace that could refine all living things. Pressure and demonic qi were refined into nothingness the moment they descended. A hint of wariness and fear flashed through the depths of the two great demons' eyes. The two great demons thought that after they reverted to their true forms, the Dharma Daojun would have to be wary no matter what. At that time, they would turn and leave after saying some pleasantries. However, to their surprise, Wu Dao's true body was fearless and walked straight towards them. It was clear that he had no intention of letting them off. Let's go! The two great demons exchanged glances and darted towards the depths of the sea in unison. They were demon beasts of the deep sea after all. Although they were at the conjoint body realm, and did not feel any discomfort on land, their combat strength could be unleashed to its limits in the depths of the sea. Furthermore, if they could not win, their speed of escape in the depths of the sea was much faster than on land. Humph! Wu Dao's true body had a mocking expression as he said indifferently, "It's too late for you to escape now." Since he had decided to attack, Wu Dao's true body would not be merciful. If he let experts of this level escape, they would undoubtedly become a hidden threat. In a flash, Wu Dao's true body vanished from the spot, and traversed the voids at such a speed that there was even a buzzing sound. Thump! Thump! The two great demons fell into the sea, and their massive bodies stirred up thousands of waves with a terrifying might as they slapped towards Wu Dao's true body. However, although the raging waves were terrifying with immense force, they evaporated into steam before they could land on Su Zimo's body. Steam rose from the glacier and coiled around it. At first glance, it looked like an immortal realm. However, the steam was filled with fatal killing intent. A black shadow tore through the air with an extremely sharp edge, and shone with a cold glint. Instantly, it arrived at the glabella of Wu Dao's true body. It was extremely accurate without any mistake. If it pierced the glabella of Wu Dao's true body, his essence spirit would not even have a chance to escape. That was the long tail of the ancient giant horseshoe crab. Although the ancient giant horseshoe crab seemed to have turned and fled into the depths of the sea, it made use of the steam to release a fatal killing move in reverse, wanting to kill Wu Dao's true body on the spot. Light of a firefly. Wu Dao's true body was expressionless as he smiled indifferently. In a flash, he suddenly reached out and grabbed the tail of the giant horseshoe crab that was piercing over. Whoosh! 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 Sharp spikes suddenly grew from the initially smooth tail, wanting to pierce the palm of Wu Dao's true body. This kind of unforeseen event was absolutely without warning. Furthermore, Wu Dao's true body's palm was gripping the tail of the giant horseshoe crab tightly, and it was too late to dodge. That was a killing move of the ancient giant horseshoe crab. With this method, countless demonic beasts had died under his long tail over the years. Once the palm of the Dharma Daojun was pierced, the tail of the giant horseshoe crab would release a strong poison. The blood chi of the Dharma Daojun was strong, and he might not die on the spot. However, he would be affected and his strength would weaken as a result. As for the giant horseshoe crab's long tail, it could pierce the glabella of the person and kill the latter's essence spirit. The ancient giant horseshoe crab had a good plan. However, it was wrong right from the start. Those spikes could not pierce the body of Wu Dao's true body at all. Chapter 14:14. Wu Dao's foundation was his body. Martial artists did not need spirit roots, nor could they sense the spirit chi of heaven and earth. They could only use their bodies as a foundation to develop their potential and create mystic realms. The body of Wu Dao's true body was the furnace of Wu Dao. It nurtured countless sutras and contained all dharmas. The fire of his martial spirit burned and tempered endlessly throughout the year. Even the true bodies of dragons back then could not compare to the strength of that body. How shocking was it to possess the power of dragons and elephants at the Jin Dan realm. Although the tail of the ancient giant horseshoe crab was sharp, it could not pierce the flesh of Wu Dao's true body. The ancient giant horseshoe crab was shocked, and its eyes were filled with disbelief. How was that possible? As a grand demon, its claws and fangs could even fight against mighty figures' dharmic weapons. However, it could not pierce the flesh of Dharma Daojun? The ancient giant horseshoe crab was finally afraid. At that moment, Wu Dao's true body frowned. Although the tail of the ancient giant horseshoe crab did not pierce his flesh, it still caused him to feel a sense of pain. The expression of Wu Dao's true body turned cold as he exerted strength with his arm and dragged the massive body of the ancient giant horseshoe crab out of the depths of the sea. Although the ancient giant horseshoe crab had the power to overturn rivers and seas, it could not control its body against the palm of Wu Dao's true body and was tossed high into the air. Wu Dao's true body leaped and punched the back of the ancient giant horseshoe crab. Crack, crack, crack. A series of cracks appeared on the back of the ancient giant horseshoe crab, expanding and extending rapidly. The ancient giant horseshoe crab did not have many killing moves, and its forte was defense. The giant horseshoe crab race was born with a carapace that was invulnerable to weapons, water and fire. Even demon beasts stronger than them could not attack them. However, at that moment, a single punch from Wu Dao's true body shattered the carapace of the ancient giant horseshoe crab. Without the protection of the tough carapace, the terrifying power penetrated the body of the ancient giant horseshoe crab instantly. Flesh and blood splattered in midair in an extremely tragic manner. Whoosh! The primordial spirit of the ancient giant horseshoe crab turned into a streak of light and fled into the distance. Wu Dao's main body stretched out his hand and grabbed at the void. The void in the distance shook and twisted. The nascent divinity of the ancient giant horseshoe crab was instantly killed by the twisting space. The storage pouch of Wu Dao's true body suddenly moved. Something with a mysterious aura jumped out. It was round, and its body was covered with strange patterns. It was emitting a powerful devouring power. This round thing was the Kuan-Pung egg. The Kuan-Pung egg could no longer hold back after sensing the smell of flesh and blood outside. Without waiting for Wu Dao's real body to call out to it, it ran out of the storage pouch on its own. It was extremely excited and began to devour the flesh and blood essence of the two North Sea great monsters. Demon beasts as enormous as the ancient killer whale and the ancient giant horseshoe crab contained shocking amounts of chi and blood. Those two North Sea demons alone were more massive than the blood chi of more than 30 conjoint body mighty figures of the two aristocratic families. Only this North Sea could give birth to a Kuan-Pung. Wu Dao's true body ignored the Kuan-Pung egg. After killing the ancient giant horseshoe crab, the gaze of Wu Dao's true body shifted, as though it could penetrate the seas and land on the ancient frost shark that was fleeing frantically in the depths of the sea. Swash! Wu Dao's true body leaped into the depths of the sea. Rumble! Boom! The seawater churned and spread to both sides, as though it was opening up a wide path for Wu Dao's true body. There was no seawater where Wu Dao's true body stepped on. Although he was in the depths of the sea, a gigantic vacuum was formed within 100 feet radius, and no seawater surged in. The man and demon closed in rapidly. Wu Dao's true body was in the Wu Dao cauldron, and refined countless sutras. Many powerful movement techniques were fused together, and his speed was extremely terrifying. The ancient frost shark could not escape at all. Fellow Taoist, I'm rather famous in this ocean region. At the critical juncture of life and death, the ancient frost shark could not be bothered about its pride, and took the initiative to beg for mercy. As long as you're willing to let me live, I'll definitely do anything for you in the future. I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Wu Dao's true body said indifferently. Fellow Taoist, are you really going to kill me? The ancient frost shark's teeth creaked as it gritted its teeth. Its back was facing Wu Dao's true body, and its eyes were filled with resentment and indignation. Wu Dao's true body did not say anything, and his movement technique was even faster. Human, I'll fight it out with you. Seeing that it could not escape, the ancient frost shark spun around and roared. Its glabella shone as it gathered its spirit consciousness and released an essence spirit secret skill. A gigantic cold light tore through the waves like a gigantic blade and slashed towards Wu Dao's true body. A battle between primordial spirits was not like a battle of magical powers or close combat. In the ancient frost shark's opinion, no matter how strong the Dharma Daojuan's physique was, there was a limit to the strength of his essence spirit, due to his cultivation realm. It would be best if it could kill this person right away. Even if it could not, a fight between essence spirits would result in an internecine outcome. This human could forget about it. Essence spirit secret skill? Wu Dao's true body had a calm expression, and channeled his essence spirit as well. A purple flame floated out from his glabella, with a shuddering aura. The flame looked extremely weak, as though it could be extinguished by a gust of wind. However, when the ancient frost shark's gigantic blade slashed against it, the purple flame merely flickered and continued burning. As for the ancient frost shark's gigantic blade, it would melt into nothingness in the blink of an eye. The ancient frost shark's pupils constricted, and it was shocked. The purple flame did not continue drifting towards it, and merely stopped not far away, before extinguishing gradually. The ancient frost shark heaved a sigh of relief. All of a sudden, his expression changed. Within his consciousness, his essence spirit felt a piercing pain and an unbearable heat, as though there was a flame burning his essence spirit. Ah! The ancient frost shark let out a series of hysterical roars, and its massive body rolled in the depths of the sea, causing raging waves. However, no matter how it struggled, it could not survive. The martial spirit fire of Wu Dao's true body had a similar effect as the reverse scale. It could not be touched. Once one's spirit consciousness came into contact with it, their essence spirit would be burned by the martial spirit fire. In a few breaths, the ancient frost shark had already quietened down. There were no injuries on its massive body that was more than 1,000 feet long. However, its essence spirit had already vanished within its consciousness, burned into nothingness by the martial spirit fire. The 3 North Sea demons were all dead. Wu Dao's true body waved his sleeves and swept up the ancient frost shark's corpse, heading back the way he came. Before long, he returned to the distance. The Kuanping egg was still trying its best to devour the blood essence of the ancient killer whale, an ancient giant horseshoe crab. Wu Dao's true body tossed the ancient frost shark's corpse in front of the Kuanping egg as well. Eat up! The Kuanping egg bowed repeatedly to express its joy. Wu Dao's true body turned around and gazed in the direction of the North Sea, murmuring softly, "This should be the last time I'm feeding you. From now on, you'll return to the world that belongs to you, and I don't know when we'll meet again." Initially, the Kuanping egg was extremely excited when it heard that. However, at that moment, it quietened down with a hint of disappointment. Chapter 14-15. Wu Dao's true body continued forward. The coldness in the depths of North Sea was even worse, and the chilling winds were bone-chilling. Even Wu Dao's true body had to channel his bloodline with all his might to withstand the chill. Within the range of Wu Dao's true body's spirit consciousness, he could no longer sense any life forms. He was already at the depths of North Sea. Right then, Wu Dao's true body raised his head and looked into the distance with a shocked expression. On the distant horizon, there were no more snow-white glaciers. Instead, there was a dark and deep ocean that emitted an extremely cold aura. Even the outermost region of North Sea was frozen all year round. However, this was the depths of North Sea. Yet, there was an ocean that could withstand the surrounding coldness without any signs of freezing. When he approached and stood at the edge of the glaciers, the shock he felt was even more intense when he looked at the deep ocean. The ocean was bottomless and boundless. It was so calm that it was frightening. It was as though there was an extremely terrifying living being hidden in the depths that could erupt at any moment and create torrential waves. Wu Dao's true body knew that this was the legendary forbidden ground of the Kuan race, North Sea. Xiao Yao, this is your home. Wu Dao's true body shifted Xiao Yao out of his storage bag and said softly. Although Xiao Yao was afraid of Wu Dao's true body, he already possessed sentience and knew that Wu Dao's true body was his master. At that moment, he was extremely reluctant and dawdled, unwilling to leave. Go on. Wu Dao's true body waved his hand. Cultivate well. Perhaps, I'll come and look for you again one day. I hope that you'll still acknowledge me as your master by then. The Kuan Pung egg remained motionless. Wu Dao's true body smiled gently and pushed gently. Splash! Water splashed everywhere. The Kuan Pung egg fell into the deep ocean and vanished in the blink of an eye. The Kuan Pung had returned to North Sea. Wu Dao's true body did not linger and turned to leave. He knew that if nothing went wrong, the Kuan Pung egg would cause a huge commotion in North Sea, and the Kuan race would definitely spare no effort to hatch Xiao Yao. When that time came, the Kuan race, which possessed the forbidden Kuan Pung, would most likely be a force that could change the entire infinite region. After doing this, Wu Dao's original body headed towards Pingyang town and prepared to continue his seclusion. Time was running out. Although Su Zimo had 3 true bodies, none of them were strong enough if a war that engulfed Tianhuang mainland and involved the entire cultivation world were to erupt. He had to step into the Mahayana realm as soon as possible and become an ancestor realm powerhouse. At the same time, Qinglian's real body had already left the territory of the 3 aristocratic families and arrived in the vicinity of an ancient temple. One of the 6 Buddhist monasteries, Dipankara Temple. After the Dao inheritance ground, Su Zimo had not seen Ming Zhen. During the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley, all the major sects and forces had gathered. Ming Zhen did not appear either. These were all considered normal. It was strange that Ming Zhen did not appear after Patriarch Yuan Bei passed away. Given the relationship between Ming Zhen and Patriarch Yuan Bei, he would definitely rush back to the North region when he heard about this. However, Ming Zhen did not appear. Furthermore, Su Zimo did not receive any news from Ming Zhen. Even the spirit crane that he sent to Daming Monastery did not receive any response. This time round, Su Zimo arrived at the South region by accident and arrived at Dipankara Temple. Dipankara Temple was passed down through the ages, and every single building in the temple exuded an ancient aura, filled with traces of time. Su Zimo descended from midair. Most people would have to pass through the sect gates to inform them of their first visit. If they traveled through the air, firstly, it would be disrespectful, and secondly, it would be easy to cause misunderstandings. At the entrance of Dipankara Temple, there was a young novice monk on each side. Although the 2 young novice monks were young, they had already cultivated to the Jin Dan realm. Patron, please stop. A young novice monk reached out and stopped Su Zimo from afar, asking in a deep voice, Patron, may I ask why you're here at Dipankara Temple? I'm Araki Takashi, and I'm here to look for an old friend of Dipankara Temple. Fellow Taoists, please go in and inform him. Su Zimo approached without putting on any airs of a mighty figure, or making things difficult for the 2 Jin Dan realm novice monks. Instead, he cupped his fists and stated his purpose for coming. Araki Takashi? The 2 young novice monks turned their heads slightly and frowned deep in thought. That name sounds familiar. One of the young novice monks murmured. All of a sudden, the other young novice monk seemed to have recalled something, and his expression changed starkly as he exclaimed, Why you're Tao Lord Araki Takashi? And no, that's not right. You're Araki Takashi, a mighty figure? The young novice monk's face was pale, and his lips were quivering. The other young novice monk glared at Suzimo with widened eyes and said instinctively, "Legend has it that Araki Takashi is a green-robed, black-haired man with refined features. That's right. Why you patron no senior, please wait here for a moment. I'll go in and inform him right away." One of the novice monks mumbled incoherently before turning around and running away. The other young novice monk seemed to be rather frightened as well, and did not dare to linger as he ran up the mountain as well. Suzimo shook his head gently and chuckled. It was no wonder the two young novice monks were so frightened. Back at Shiman Manor, even a conjoint body mighty figure was intimidated by Araki Takashi's name, and did not dare to attack him, let alone two Jin Dan realm novice monks. Suzimo was in no hurry either. He stood at the entrance of the mountain, and closed his eyes to rest, waiting quietly. Time passed bit by bit. Soon an hour passed. The two young novice monks seemed to have disappeared and did not return. Suzimo's expression was unchanged and his eyes were still closed. In the blink of an eye, 2 hours passed. Suzimo frowned. Even if there were any mistakes in between, 2 hours was enough for the news to reach him. Suzimo took a deep breath and continued waiting without acting rashly. 4 hours. 6 hours. The sun in the west gradually set. Suzimo finally opened his eyes and declared expressionlessly, "I am Araki Takashi, and I'm here to meet an old friend of Dapamkara Temple. This person is the titular disciple of Dapamkara Temple." His voice was neither loud nor soft, but it spread to every corner of Dapamkara Temple. "Patron Araki Takashi, please return." Right then, a voice sounded from within Dapamkara Temple. The titular disciple of Dapamkara Temple was once known as Konru. He doesn't know Patron Araki Takashi, nor is he an old friend of Patron Araki Takashi. Suzimo frowned. He remembered clearly that Ming Jun was once the titular disciple of Dapamkara Temple. Could the titular disciple of Dapamkara Temple have changed? Suzimo was already impatient, and his expression turned cold as he declared once more, "The old friend I want to meet is known as Ming Jun." A moment later, the voice from Dapamkara Temple sounded once more. "Ming Jun has already left the temple. Patron Araki Takashi, if you want to meet Ming Jun, please look for him yourself." Left the temple? Suzimo sneered internally. If Dapamkara Temple had given him that explanation at the beginning, he might have believed it. But now, Dapamkara Temple was secretive, and did not even allow him to enter the sect. How could Suzimo believe that? "Since that's the case, I, Araki Takashi, have arrived at Dapamkara Temple today. I don't want to meet an old friend. Instead, I want to meet the eminent monks and discuss the Tao." With a cold expression, Suzimo rose into the air slowly and shouted, "If the eminent monks refuse to meet me, don't blame me for barging in." Chapter 14:16. How dare you? Upon hearing Araki Takashi's words, a soft holler sounded from Dapamkara Temple, as though the person who spoke was enraged as well. No matter what, Dapamkara Temple was one of the 6 Buddhist monasteries after all. It was an absolute super sect of Tianhuang mainland that had a long history and stood tall. It had never been threatened as such. "This is Dapamkara Temple. How dare you act so brazenly here?" The voice from the temple sounded sternly. Suzimo sneered. If this was in the past, he might not have been qualified. However, now that he was at the conjoint body realm, he would dare to barge in even if it was a super sect. This matter concerned Ming Jun, and he had to get to the bottom of it no matter what. Suzimo ignored Dapamkara Temple's warning, and flew towards the entrance of the temple on the mountain. Araki Takashi, seeing that Suzimo had ignored the warning, the voice from Dapamkara Temple seemed to be a little anxious and continued, "If you dare to advance rashly again, don't blame Dapamkara Temple for suppressing you." "All right, I'd like to see the methods of the eminent monks of Dapamkara Temple." Suzimo laughed. "Activate the formation." The voice from Dapamkara Temple sounded. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Around the Dapamkara Temple, a blazing golden light burst out in an instant. It was dazzling, and the huge temple was tightly protected in it. It was the sect protection formation of Dipamkara Temple. At the same time, sacred and vast Sanskrit chants came from the formation. When they entered the ears, they could not help but feel guilty and remorseful. If it was a cultivator with a lower cultivation realm, they would have put down their weapons and surrendered upon hearing the Sanskrit sounds. In fact, there was a high chance that they would convert to Buddhism. However, Su Zimo was proficient in the Buddhist monasteries and sat in the Tao inheritance ground for 5,000 years to deduce Wu Dao. That experience forged an unshakable and indestructible will. The Sanskrit sounds did not affect him at all. They went in one ear and out the other. However, the sect protection formation was indeed troublesome, and it was almost impossible to barge in. Su Zimo's expression did not change. He just stared at the grand array with rapt attention. The monk in Randang Temple noticed that Su Zimo had stopped and seemed to be in a difficult situation. He could not help but speak again. "Benefactor Araki Takashi, please go back. If you want to force your way through the protective formation, you'll need the strength of a martial progenitor. Even a half-martial progenitor won't do. Furthermore, you have just entered the conjoint body realm." Su Zimo remained unmoved. In fact, he was already deducing the sect protection formation at this moment. His mind was spinning rapidly as he tried his best to find the eye of the formation. After 5,000 years of sitting in the Tao inheritance ground, Su Zimo's improvement and changes were indescribable. Wu Dao was the final harvest and result. However, during this period of time, Su Zimo had obtained the legacies of over 30 half-martial ancestors, and array formations were one of them. If he didn't have the legacy of array formations, he wouldn't have been able to comprehend that incomplete teleportation array. Benefactor Araki Takashi, when the monk of Randang Temple saw that Su Zimo was still unwilling to leave, he seemed to be a little impatient and said in a deep voice, "Buddha is benevolent. Our temple is not willing to incur enmity with you. This formation is only in a defensive state right now. If you're still unwilling to leave, don't blame me for activating the offensive formation." Fufu. Right then, Su Zimo's eyes flashed and he suddenly laughed. "You won't have a chance," Su Zimo said indifferently. Boom. Su Zimo waved his sleeves and conjured a sword art. Instantly, 49 extremely sharp sword chi burst forth from his sleeves in a bedazzling manner. Chi. Chi. It was a vast expanse of whiteness as the world changed color, and killing intent stirred the starry skies. Those were heaven-slaying sword chi that was extremely sharp. Under Su Zimo's control, the 49 heaven-slaying sword chi charged towards every corner of Randang Temple with extreme precision. Some of the sword chi entered the grass. Some of the sword chi pierced the green stones. Some of the sword chi severed the ancient trees. The expressions of the monks of Randang Temple changed starkly when they saw that. These sword chis were not randomly stabbing. The landing point of every single sword chi was the formation core of the sect protection formation. Actually, the sect protection formation was already rather complicated with 49 formation cores that formed a heavenly cycle and had extremely strong defensive capabilities. Only true Mahayana patriarchs could break through the formation with the power of divine powers. However, no matter how complicated and strong the formation was, there was ultimately a weakness and flaw: the formation core. The formation core was the core and key to the operation of the formation. No matter how strong the formation was, it would naturally not be able to withstand the destruction of the formation core. There was no way the 49 formation cores could defend against the sharpness of the heaven-slaying sword chi, and were pierced on the spot almost instantly. Rumble. The sect protection formation dissipated with a bang. This exchange took a lot of effort from Su Zimo. After all, it was an immense burden for him to find the 49 formation cores of the sect protection formation in such a short period of time. However, the situation was different in the eyes of the monks of Randang Temple. There was no way they knew how much effort Su Zimo had expended. In their eyes, Su Zimo had merely waved his sleeves gently, and the sect protection formation had already disintegrated. Araki Takashi. It was clear that the monk of Randang Temple had not expected something as such to happen as well. Su Zimo strode forward and arrived in front of the tightly shut monastery, hollering softly, Since the esteemed monks are unwilling to receive me, I, Araki Takashi, will pay you a visit." Before he finished his sentence, Suzumo gripped his fists tightly and threw a punch towards the monastery's door. Although the monastery's door was made of heaven and earth mystic stones and was extremely tough, there was no way it could defend against the power of a grade 7 creation Qinglian. Boom! The monastery's door was shattered by Suzumo's punch and countless gravel exploded and splattered everywhere. Amidst the billowing dust, Suzumo was like a god that looked down on the world and could not be offended as he stepped through the ruins and entered Randang Temple slowly. Opposite the monastery's door was the massive and majestic Heavenly King Hall. At that moment, there were many monks standing in front of the Heavenly King Hall. Although their cultivation realms varied, the weakest was at the Void Reversion realm. There were also many Dharma Daojun, and more than 10 conjoint body mighty figures. The monks were wary as though they were facing a formidable enemy, and glared at Suzumo, who was walking in slowly. Although the leader of the group was a conjoint body monk. Although he was broad and fat, he had a dignified look on his face. He held a Vajra Zen staff in his left hand, and a string of prayer beads in his right, as he scrutinized Suzumo. "Patron Araki Takashi, how dare you barge into Randang Temple and destroy the monastery's door?" The Vajra Zen staff in the hands of the fat monk slammed heavily on the ground and let out a deafening bang that lasted for a long time like a thunderclap. The slam of the Vajra Zen staff, coupled with the fat monk's shout, formed an extremely powerful sound domain attack. However, Suzumo's expression was calm. A sound domain attack, as such, could not hurt a grade 7 creation Qinglian at all. In the current cultivation world, apart from some cultivators of the 3 aristocratic families, no one knew what sort of transformation Suzumo had undergone in Baiming Town. "Who are you?" Suzumo asked expressionlessly. "I'm the abbot of Randang Temple, and my dermic name is Hui Shun," the fat monk said slowly. Chapter 14:17. "Oh," Suzumo replied casually with a calm expression. Given his current reputation, even if he saw the patriarch of the super sects, he could talk to them as equals without bowing. "Araki Takashi, Buddha is benevolent. If you back down now, Dipankara Monastery can let bygones be bygones for today's matter. If you push your luck, don't blame our monastery for suppressing you as an external enemy." Abbot Huishun's expression was grim, and his voice was stern. "Master, there's no need to reason with him." A young monk stood out with a burning gaze and a powerful aura. Although he was at the Dharma characteristic realm, he was not afraid at all in front of Suzumo. "My former dermic name was Kongru, and I'm the current titular disciple of Dipankara Monastery. You can also call me Tao Lord Dipankara." Kongru walked out slowly and looked at Suzumo eagerly. "I've long heard that Araki Takashi established his Tao and imparted martial arts to all living beings. His combat strength is heaven-defying, and he's the #1 monster incarnate in history, invincible among his peers. Up till this point of my cultivation, I've never been defeated. I've even suppressed conjoint body mighty figures before. Today, I'll witness your capabilities, Patron Araki Takashi." "Ha ha ha." Instead of being angry, Suzumo laughed. "Dipankara Monastery has truly broadened my horizons today," Suzumo said. "Up till this point of my cultivation, I've swept through strong enemies. There are very few low-level cultivators who dare to challenge me. You're one of them." Kongru backed down. Abbot Huishun frowned slightly and hollered softly. Although Abbot Huishun had never seen Suzumo before, there were too many rumors about Araki Takashi over the years. It was definitely not a fluke that Araki Takashi was able to reach this day and obtain such a ferocious reputation. Kongru was indeed a rare paragon of Dipankara Monastery in this generation. However, he was still a little lacking if he wanted to challenge Araki Takashi across a major cultivation realm. "Master, don't worry. I'm just sparring with benefactor Araki Takashi." Kongru still persisted. Her eyes burned with battle intent as she stared fixedly at Suzumo, who was not far away. She even provoked him. "What? Fellow Taoist Araki Takashi, do you not dare to fight me? Are you worried that your reputation will be ruined?" "Ha ha ha ha." Suzumo laughed. Good, good, good. Su Zimo praised repeatedly as he strode towards Kong Ru. He nodded and said, "It's very good that you have such courage. It's very rare, but unfortunately." Su Zimo didn't continue speaking and suddenly stopped in his tracks. Kong Rian watched as Su Zimo walked over warily. He took out a gigantic Zen staff from his storage bag and waved it gently, as though it was extremely heavy. The distance between the two was less than 10 feet. Su Zimo suddenly roared. "Kill!" Crack! There was a deafening sound. It was as though thunder had exploded beside Kong Ru's ears. Kong Ru's eyes widened and turned bloodshot instantly. Her mind went blank, and she froze on the spot, as though she was struck by lightning. Thunderclap kills sound domain attack. After entering the conjoint body realm and transforming her body into a grade 7 creation realm, the power of Qinglian's sound domain attack had increased several times as well. Even a conjoint body mighty figure might not be able to withstand it, let alone Kong Ru, who was only at the Dharma characteristic realm. "Unfortunately, your combat strength is slightly lacking," Su Zimo said indifferently. It was only then that he continued what he had not finished earlier on. Thump! Kong Ru fell stiffly to the ground with his eyes closed. Although he was still breathing, he had already fainted from the shock. The monks were in an uproar. A titular disciple of Dipankara Monastery was fainted by a single roar from Araki Takeshi. This exchange of blows was extremely sudden and short. The sound domain attack burst forth instantly. Even if Abbot Hui Shun and the other monks wanted to help, it was too late. Furthermore, Abbot Hui Shun and the other monks were not too far away from Su Zimo. Even so, their ears buzzed and their teeth ached from the shock of thunderclap kill. Dharma characteristic monks retreat. Conjoint body monks join forces with me. Abbot Hui Shun hollered, and was the first to react. Waving his Vajra meditation staff, he charged towards Su Zimo. The other conjoint body monks summoned their destiny dharmic weapons and surrounded Su Zimo as well. Araki Takeshi, you barged into Dipankara Monastery, destroyed the formation, shattered the monastery's door, and even injured our titular disciple. Don't blame us for joining forces to suppress you. Abbot Hui Shun said in a deep voice. You guys think you can suppress me? Su Zimo sneered. Boom! In a flash, Su Zimo transformed into a streak of light and arrived before Abbot Hui Shun instantly. He clenched his fist and punched. Abbot Hui Shun swung his Vajra meditation staff and smashed it viciously towards Su Zimo's fist. Su Zimo did not dodge or even change his move. You're asking for trouble. Abbot Hui Shun harumphed and did not stop. His Vajra meditation staff was made of diamond meteorite and was indestructible. It was a Khanate mighty figure dharmic weapon and was not something that a body of flesh and blood could take head-on. Bang! With that thought, Abbot Hui Shun's Vajra meditation staff smashed heavily against Su Zimo's fist. There was no sign of bones cracking as he had imagined. Instead, there was a strange sound, as though he was defeated. He's fine. Abbot Hui Shun's pupils constricted as he looked at everything before him in disbelief. Immediately after, Abbot Hui Shun's expression changed. He felt a terrifying power surge into the Vajra meditation staff like an ocean. Buzz! 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 Against that power, the Vajra meditation staff trembled uncontrollably. Even Abbot Hui Shun's strength could not suppress it. Su Zimo turned his fist into a palm, and his strength turned from extreme hardness to extreme gentleness as he punched and shook the Vajra meditation staff. Ah! Abbot Hui Shun exclaimed as his palm tore apart and blood gushed out like a fountain. His destiny dharmic weapon was snatched away by Su Zimo barehanded. At that moment, the other conjoint body monks of Dipankara Monastery had already closed in. Many dharmic arts and dharmic weapons descended. Without turning back or looking, Su Zimo snatched the Vajra meditation staff and swung it in reverse. Woo woo woo! The Vajra meditation staff transformed into a golden beam of light and tore through the air. Clang! The Vajra meditation staff collided with a wooden fish that flew over and shattered it. A conjoint body monk's expression changed starkly as he spat out blood. That wooden fish was his destiny dharmic weapon, but it was crippled by Su Zimo in a single move. The Vajra meditation staff did not stop and smashed towards the chest of another conjoint body monk. The monk hurriedly retracted his destiny dermic weapon. It was a gigantic ancient bell that blocked in front of him. Dong! The Vajra meditation staff collided with the ancient bell and let out a long bang. The conjoint body monk shuddered and fell from midair with a dazed expression. His gaze was lifeless, and his consciousness was blurry. He was stunned by the ancient bell in his arms. Swoosh! Suddenly, the sound of a tsunami could be heard from Su Zimo's body. Ah! Su Zimo reared his head and roared into the skies. His blood chi surged as he charged towards the dozen or so conjoint body cultivators that surrounded him. Bang! 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 Su Zimo shattered all the descending dermic arts barehanded, without using any dermic weapons or dermic arts, and repelled all the incoming dermic weapons, breaking through all dermic arts with brute force. Chapter 14:18. All the monks were shocked. The battle at Heaven and Earth Valley spread throughout the world, and all the cultivators knew that Su Zimo's true body had many dermic arts and trump cards. His physique and bloodline could be considered as a weakness. However, they did not expect Su Zimo to release tsunami blood and break through all dermic arts with brute force, destroying all the dermic arts and weapons of the monks. Om! Ma! And I! Pa! Me! Om! The damning mantra of the 6 words echoed through the world. The Fiend Suppression Seal, Immortal Trap Seal, Demon Subduing Seal, Immovable Foundation Seal, Great Mount Meru Seal and Great Vajrawil Seal descended instantly. The monks conjured their secret skills once more to defend against it. However, Su Zimo had entered the conjoint body realm and attained the body of a grade 7 Qinglian. His black-haired essence spirit was tempered by the immortal, Buddhist and fiend Dao arts, and was even more condensed than a half-martial ancestor. With a single move of his spirit consciousness, he possessed boundless dermic powers. Even the most ordinary dermic arts were difficult to defend against, let alone a heaven-grade cultivation technique of Daming Monastery. Bang! 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 The monks that fought against the 6 Daming dermic seals were suppressed one after another and fell to the ground. Their faces were pale, and their organs were shaken as they spat out blood. The moment Abbot Huishin charged forward, he was suppressed by the Great Mount Meru seal. In a flash, Su Zimo arrived before a conjoint body monk and flipped his palm, suppressing the monk's head. The monk was stunned by the damning mantra and reacted slightly slower. He could not dodge in time and could only raise his arms to defend. Snap! The conjoint body monk's arms were snapped by Su Zimo, and he fell from midair. Without turning back, Su Zimo suddenly retreated and knocked into the embrace of another monk, sending him flying. Right now, Su Zimo was a humanoid grade 7 creation Qinglian. Against the encirclement of the monks, he rampaged and none of them could defend against him. The battle broke out, and in less than 10 breaths, Abbot Huishin and more than 10 conjoint body mighty figures were defeated. Who are you? How dare you barge into my temple and injure my monks? At this moment, a stern shout suddenly came from the rear hall of Randang Temple. The voice was as loud as a bell, filled with endless dignity and anger. Boom! A terrifying aura soared into the sky, the aura of a half-martial ancestor. In the blink of an eye, a burly monk appeared above the heavenly king's hall. Wielding a demon-subduing pestle, he glared like an enraged Vajra with a fearsome might. Elder Huixing. When the monks saw this monk, their spirits were lifted and they all shouted. Most of the monks who practiced Buddhism abstained from anger and had a pure heart and few desires. However, Elder Huixing was an exception among the Buddhist monks. His temperament was explosive. Even though he cultivated Dharma, it had not changed for many years. He was incomparably strict and was in charge of punishment in Dipankara Temple. The monks in the temple were extremely fearful of Elder Huixing. Elder Huixing was a true half-martial ancestor. I'm Araki Takeshi. Su Zimo looked at Huixing and said indifferently, I'm here to pay my respects to an old friend. However, the eminent monks of Dipankara Temple are secretive and refused to meet me. That's why you barged into the sect. Elder Huixing glared angrily and shouted, I want to know about Ming Zhen's situation. Su Zimo said, If the eminent monks tell the truth, I'll leave naturally. When he heard the words Ming Zhen, Elder Huixing frowned. It was clear that he knew something as well. What a joke! Suddenly, Elder Huixing shouted, "You barged into the sect and injured our disciples of the Buddhist monasteries. Do you think you can leave unscathed? Araki Takashi, aren't you way too arrogant? I'll teach you a lesson today." The moment he said that, Elder Huixing leaped down from the Heavenly King's hall and released the might of a half-martial ancestor. Gripping the fiend's subduing pestle with both hands, he descended from the skies and smashed down towards Su Zimo's head. Against a half-martial ancestor expert, Su Zimo did not dare to be careless. The grade 7 creation Qinglian could defend against mighty figures' dermic weapons. However, the dermic weapon of a half-martial ancestor was fused with a trace of divine powers, and could already pose a threat to him. Su Zimo's eyes shone brightly, and a green lotus platform suddenly flew out from his glabella. It shone with a series of resplendent lights, and was emerald green in color. It was ingenious, and looked like the most beautiful treasure in the world. Creation Lotus Platform. Heavens, it's the grade 7 Creation Lotus Platform. When they saw the green lotus platform, the monks were shocked and exclaimed. Some of them even had a hint of greed in their eyes. The Creation Qinglian was an utmost treasure of the world, and the Buddhist monasteries. Although it was only a Creation Lotus platform, it had already grown to grade 7, and was an irreplaceable treasure. Who wouldn't be tempted? Holding the Creation Lotus platform in his hands, Su Zimo's blood chi surged and burst forth instantly, striking towards Elder Huixing's fiend's subduing pestle. Boom! The Creation Lotus platform collided with the fiend's subduing pestle, and let out a deafening sound. A blinding light burst forth from the point of collision of the two dermic weapons. It was colorful and spread rapidly in all directions, causing the tiles on the Heavenly King's palace to fall. Su Zimo's body landed heavily on the ground, leaving 2 deep footprints on the ground. However, Elder Huixing did not have it easy either, as he was sent flying by the terrifying power. He flipped a few times in midair before landing slowly. "All right." The anger in Elder Huixing's eyes intensified as he said coldly, "No wonder you dared to barge into our sect and injure the monks of our monastery. So, you have something to rely on. To think that you can defend against my power. Half-martial ancestor? It's nothing much." Su Zimo had an indifferent expression as he flicked his finger. A white sword chi circled his fingertip in an extremely sharp manner. There were probably not many people in the world who would dare to say that a half-martial ancestor was nothing much. Extremely arrogant. Extremely arrogant. Enraged, Elder Huixing hollered, "Today, I'll let you witness the secret skills of Dipankara Monastery." Elder Huixing's hands changed continuously as he conjured hand seals. A shuddering aura emanated from Elder Huixing's hands. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes. That was the power of divine powers. Those who could become half-martial ancestors had already touched the surface of divine powers and comprehended a trace of them. Even if it was only a trace of divine power, it was far stronger than dermic arts. Swoosh! A green lamp appeared between Elder Huixing's hands. There was a cluster of flames burning on it that flickered and flickered. However, that flame emitted a terrifying temperature. "Go!" Elder Huixing slapped his storage bag with his left hand and summoned a golden alms bowl that shone with a golden light. It expanded against the wind and rapidly arrived above Su Zimo's head. The golden alms bowl shone with a mysterious light that enveloped Su Zimo. That mysterious light possessed an extremely strange power that could restrain Su Zimo's figure. Su Zimo seemed to be rooted to the spot. Su Zimo frowned slightly and was about to channel his bloodline to negate that mighty power. "Go!" Elder Huixing hollered and pointed at Su Zimo. The cluster of flame on the bluish lamp descended in an instant. The methods of a half-martial ancestor were indeed extraordinary. Elder Huixing first used his dermic weapon to restrain Su Zimo's figure, before enveloping him with a flame formed from the power of divine powers. His attacks were fluid without any gaps, and Su Zimo could not dodge at all. Chapter 14:19. When the flame of the divine power descended, it enveloped Su Zimo and burned furiously. Almost in the blink of an eye, Su Zimo's hair and clothes were burned to ashes. When they saw that, the monks heaved a sigh of relief. No matter how strong Araki Takeshi was, he could not defend against the divine power of a half-martial ancestor. Even though he had only comprehended a little, it was enough to suppress Araki Takeshi. Amidst the flames, Su Zimo had a calm expression, and there was no fear or pain in his eyes. Even though the fire of the divine ability was extremely powerful, to the extent that he was already feeling a burning pain, it was nothing to him. Splash! The blood chi in Su Zimo's body was channeled to its limits and surged like a tsunami with a terrifying might. Against the impact of that powerful blood chi, the divine power flame burning on his body weakened significantly. However, it was still burning without any signs of extinguishing. Humph! Elder Huixing said coldly. Araki Takeshi, that flame contains a wisp of my divine power comprehension. Even if you cultivate to the tsunami blood realm, you won't be able to defend against it. Is that so? Su Zimo's voice was still unusually calm. However, his aura was rising continuously. The flames flickered. All of a sudden, Elder Huixing's expression changed. Right in front of him, Su Zimo's figure had already vanished from the flickering flames and was replaced by a lotus flower that was half the height of a person. It was jade green in color and had jade green lotus leaves. It was crystal clear and swayed gently in the flames. Even the fire of a divine ability would not be able to incinerate this green lotus. This is. When the other monks saw that as well, they were shocked and widened their eyes. A bloodline phenomenon? Elder Huixing's expression was grim as he vaguely realized something. Immediately after, the Qinglian soared into the skies as though it was about to break through the world. Lotus petals bloomed one after another and shone with 1,000 streaks of auspicious colors. There were 7 petals and 63 Qinglian seeds. That was the complete form of the Grade 7 Creation Qinglian, and its power was more than a level higher than the Creation Lotus platform. The golden alms bowl that was initially above Su Zimo's head was sent flying by the Creation Qinglian and landed not far away with a dim light. The Creation Qinglian swayed gently. Heaven and earth shook. The divine power flame that enveloped the Creation Qinglian was quickly suppressed by rays of light and was gradually extinguished. The divine power flame was extinguished. The monks were shocked. Even a half-martial ancestor could not suppress Araki Takeshi. In the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley, Desolate Martial was almost helpless against the power of a half-martial ancestor. It had only been a few years and Desolate Martial had already grown to such an extent. Su Zimo's figure appeared once more. Initially, his hair and brows were burned to ashes. However, after cultivating to the conjoint body realm, his dermic powers were boundless and his long, black hair grew back quickly. Su Zimo swiped his storage bag and took out a green robe, wearing it once more. You want to teach me a lesson with just that? Su Zimo sneered and closed his sword fingers, slashing gently in the direction of Elder Huixing Qi. Qi. Instantly, 1,000 heaven-slaying sword qi burst forth. A vast expanse of white, blazing and dazzling, weaved into an inescapable net of sword qi that enveloped Elder Huixing. The heaven-slaying sword qi was way too sharp. Elder Huixing did not dare to be careless either. He waved the fiend's subduing pestle in his hands and channeled dermic powers to conjure dermic arts, colliding with the incoming heaven-slaying sword qi. Clang! 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 The heaven-slaying sword qi collided with the fiend's subduing pestle and let out the sound of metal clashing as sparks flew. Every single heaven-slaying sword qi was not to be underestimated. Furthermore, the heaven-slaying sword qi was extremely agile and pervasive. Elder Huixing was already drenched in sweat after blocking 1,000 heaven-slaying sword qi. Thank goodness, thank goodness. Elder Huixing thought to himself that he was lucky. Thankfully, there are only 1,000 of them. If Araki Takeshi had a deeper comprehension, and there were a few more sword qi, I wouldn't have been able to defend against it. Elder Huixing heaved a sigh of relief. He had no idea that not long ago, the half-martial ancestors of the Dongfang and Shimin aristocratic families died to Su Zimo's heaven-slaying sword qi. At that time, Su Zimo released 10,000 sword chi instantly and killed the two half-martial ancestors. It was not that Su Zimo had not cultivated to that level. He did not release 10,000 sword chi because he maintained his rationality and did not want to harm Elder Huixing's life. Swash! After 1,000 heaven-slaying sword chi, Su Zimo's figure flashed and arrived before Elder Huixing, raising the creation lotus platform. He suppressed Elder Huixing's head. Clang! In his hurry, Elder Huixing did not have time to think and could only raise the fiend's subduing pestle to defend. He had just dealt with 1,000 heaven-slaying sword chi, and his dermic powers were depleted. Now that he was in a hurry to defend, he did not even have the time to release his blood chi. That single block caused Elder Huixing's body to shudder, and his arms to go numb. Ah! Elder Huixing exclaimed softly and retreated, wanting to increase the distance between them and catch his breath. Unfortunately, Su Zimo's talent in melee combat was terrifying. Even among the experts of this generation, there was no one who could compare to him, let alone those of the same cultivation realm. Su Zimo did not give Elder Huixing a chance at all, and chased after him like a shadow. Raising the creation Qinglian, he suppressed once more. Helpless, Elder Huixing could only raise the fiend's subduing pestle to defend. Clang! There was another deafening sound. Elder Huixing's mouth was torn apart and blood flowed, as the fiend's subduing pestle flew out of his hands. His teeth fell off from the impact of the power, and his mouth was filled with blood with shock. Those injuries were nothing to conjoint body mighty figures, let alone a half-martial ancestor expert. Su Zimo's gaze intensified, and he seized the opportunity to catch up, suppressing the creation Qinglian in his hands once more. Elder Huixing barely managed to conjure a dermic art to defend. Boom! The creation Qinglian descended and shattered the dermic art. Elder Huixing's figure fell rapidly and landed heavily on the ground, creating a human-shaped pit. The surroundings were filled with cracks and dust billowed. The monks stared with their eyes wide open, their throats moving as they unconsciously swallowed their saliva. Patriarchs lived in seclusion, and half-martial ancestors were the peak existences of the cultivation world. But now, a half-martial ancestor expert was beaten to such a miserable state by Araki Takashi, and was already hammered into the ground. Su Zimo's figure descended as well. The monk's heart skipped a beat. Abbot Huishin hollered hurriedly, "Araki Takashi, do you really think that there's no one in Dapamkara Monastery who can suppress you? Dapamkara Monastery has been passed down through the ages. If we summon our patriarch back, you Araki Takashi will definitely die." Abbot Huishin gripped a talisman in his hand that could be torn apart at any moment. It was as though tearing the talisman would alarm the Mahayana Patriarch of Dapamkara Monastery. Su Zimo's expression turned cold as he said slowly, "I merely want to know Ming Zhen's whereabouts. Dapamkara Monastery refuses to tell me, and now, you're using your patriarch to suppress me? Ming Zhen was harmed by Dapamkara Monastery if you guys are so guilty." The moment he said that, the temperature in the monastery plummeted. It was as though the monks would suffer the wrath of Araki Takashi the next moment. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.